Hi guys, am I audible? This is my first live stream, so I am a complete noob in this. So excuse me if anything goes wrong. Am I audible? Is my voice audible? Okay, okay. So um, so this is like a live stream that I initially planned when I achieved the 1000 subscribers milestone. It got a little bit delayed, but yeah, I mean. I had to do it sometime, right? So here it is. And hello, everyone. Hi, Suraj. Hi, the Indian View. And Vamshi. Hi, Ritesh. Hello. So I'll just get into the main stuff directly. So Aditya has asked a question. I have lost the non-tech job I was doing from last 5 years. Should I do full stack web development or data science or big data, etc.? I really need advice. No one in my family is in this field. Thanks. So if you are from a non-tech field, Aditya, if you are from a non-tech field, then in my opinion, I think it is a little bit difficult to get into other fields like data science. You can still do, but data science. I mean, for data science, they look for some previous work that you have done mostly, or you should have strong analytical skills. So and big data, I'm not sure if big data is meant for someone who is completely from a non-tech background. Maybe after some years of experience, you can switch to a non-tech. F- from non-tech, after a few years of experience in technical background, if you make a switch to big data, then it might work out. Learning Hadoop and things like that. But you can start with full stack web development. You can start with full stack web development. That is going to be easy for you. It's going to be easy for you to start working, to start gaining some experience. There are a lot of freelancing projects that get posted, and there are a lot of small businesses most of the times who are looking for someone to create their website. So you can ask around in your local circle if there's someone who wants a website, and you can start from there. Start doing a couple of projects, and once you do some projects, once you start gaining that exposure and experience, just try to make sure that you keep going at it, you keep learning new things, and then you can look for a full time job in web development. No one is going to ask you for your degree if you have the skills. And some companies do ask, but I mean, that shouldn't be an issue. And most of the startups and companies are there to hire. And please guide the job slash growth, the salary slash growth in full stack web development. So the salary is like, full stack development usually offers good salary. I mean, if you, so technical roles, in good companies, even in companies in India, there are good companies who offer good amount of packages. Even for junior devs, they offer easily around 15 to 18 lakhs per annum. And going forward, if you go for a remote job somewhere outside India, then you can easily get a package that is up to their standards, 40 LP or something. But that kind of stuff takes a lot of time, and it takes a lot of experience. So don't have that as your initial objective. You should focus on starting small, since you are from a non-tech background. And the same go for you as well, the Indian View. Do not leave your job. If you're planning to leave your job, do not do that. Because see, I mean, there are two things. When, let's say, when we are doing a job, when we are trying to upskill ourselves to get a better package or something, when we are doing that sort of stuff, what happens is that most of the times there are a lot of questions coming in, so I'll address all of them. Just keep asking them. And coming back to the point, when we are doing a job, there is a safety net for us, right? There is a safety net for us where we feel like ek din agar, let's say, we don't do any new learning, we do not learn anything, or if, let's say, one day we are tired and we feel like we don't want to do anything, that one day, becomes two and it starts becoming three. So that kind of stuff happens a lot when you're doing a regular job. But if let's say you're from a non-technical background, then that's exactly what you need. You need that level of dedication and hard work to put into, so that you can smoothly transition from a non-tech background to a tech background. So do not leave your job, try to utilize your extra hours. I actually did a video on this, a video on how things to consider before dropping out of college. So you don't have to watch that entire video, but just try to watch the last section of it where I explained how you can manage your time after doing a job to start learning. And if you are successfully able to do that and you feel confident that you are a fast learner, then go for it. If you want to quit your job, but you should have some sort of bandwidth in terms of funds that you can sustain yourself for a couple of months, because the journey is not going to be easy, right? Hello everyone. There are a lot of questions. सर बूट कैम्प कब से स्टार्ट है? 13 मई से स्टार्ट है। 13 मई को मैं स्टार्ट करूँगा, मैं उसी पे ही काम कर रहा हूँ, काफ़ी सारा काम है अभी उस पर। there's a lot of work in the bootcamp still pending. I have created a list of the entire work if you guys want to see, but yeah, I mean, there's a lot of work, like a lot of work. So, like all of these things I've mentioned in my register, all of this is there, and I've divided it into simpler tasks, smaller tasks, like what I'm going to achieve in a single day and things like that. But yeah, I mean, it's still a lot of work I have to put in to start the bootcamp. Is DSA needed for remote job? Uh, so this is like I've been getting a question around this a lot. So DSA focuses more on your problem solving skills, right? So there are a few jobs that so there are two kinds of job. Like some jobs are average, and by average I mean they in those jobs you would be getting a maximum salary of 25,000 30,000 per month, and uske baad bhi there would be a lot of tax deductions, right? So there are those kinds of jobs, and those kinds of jobs you can easily get through DSA. But if you want to go to a higher package per se, then DSA is not everything, right? DSA is going to help you in making your problem solving skills a lot better, and it is going to help you in cracking interviews, because majority of the technical interviews में दूसरा या तीसरा round DSA का ही होता है. तो I mean, it will help you in cracking DSA rounds in those interviews. But getting a job purely on the basis of DSA, उसके लिए you will have to do competitive programming, and competitive programming में you should have a good rank if you want to like purely focus on DSA. And I would say that if you're going for a remote job in some other domain, let's say you're applying for a DevOps engineer or a mobile developer or a web developer, whatever it is, even for machine learning or things like that, there is going to be a DSA round, and most of the companies take that DSA round. So uske liye intermediate amount of DSA is more than enough. And a lot of students also ask, should we do DSA or web development, or DSA or DevOps, right? Do both, right? DSA is going to help you in clearing those interviews, right? If you are aspiring to become a web developer, if you are aspiring to become uh, a DevOps engineer, DSA is going to be a hurdle for you, because interview के अंदर, I mean second third round is going to be based out on DSA, and you need to clear it. So for that you need an intermediate amount of DSA. And if you want to do it parallelly, I mean, if you're pursuing to become a web developer, or if you're pursuing to become a DevOps engineer, then try to keep it in a sense that you spend majority of the time trying to learn web development or DevOps, but try to invest that 2 3 hours in DSA every day, right? So it can go parallelly. It's not the same thing. Parallelly करो, 1 2 घंटा निकाल के try to do DSA 1 2 hours in a day, and make it a habit. Try to do it every day, and the rest of the time whatever you have for your studies, spend it on whatever field you're pursuing: DevOps, web dev, mobile dev, whatever it is. uh, can we ready for job in 2 years? आराम से. I mean, I got my first job in like, I got my first offer, not job. I rejected that offer, but I got my first offer in um कितना था वो? In 7 months. I got my first offer in 7 months. So I started in November 2017, and my first offer that I received it in late July 2018. Right. तो अगर मुझे ऑफर मिल गया, वो डेवॉप्स रिलेटेड ऑफर नहीं था, बट इट जस्ट शोज द काइंड ऑफ हार्ड वर्क दैट आई डिड. राइट. सो इफ यू पुट इन द राइट अमाउंट ऑफ हार्ड वर्क, डेफिनेटली यू आर गोइंग टू गेट अ जॉब. 2 साल तो बहुत ज़्यादा होता है. आई मीन यू कैन गेट इट before that, like easily before that. So that is there. Then Rohit Prasad says that you told we can crack 25 LPA after completing phase 4. So you mean 25 LPA in hand or CTC? Uh, Good question. Yeah, when I was talking about 25 LPA, like when I was talking about up to 25 LPA package, I was talking about it in an average, right? So 25 LPA, even if you're getting that, it's not like you're going to get it in a job that is outside India. I was talking about jobs that are available in India, because see, I mean, tech is a field where the competition is very high. And also, I mean, I don't want to get into stuff like, I don't want to make promises that I don't myself believe are realistic. So if I say that you're going to get a job 40 50 LPA, I wouldn't do that. Some people are still going to get it. I didn't say that after completing this entire boot camp, phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, phase 4, you cannot get 40 LPA. You can get it, but it's just going to be a couple of students at max that actually, though, they actually put in the hard work, right? So I was talking on an average. And अब इसमें, I mean, you can decide. I mean, if you put in, let's say, more hard work than others, then it might be that you're getting a package of 30 LPA, and after deducting all the tax and getting tax exemptions and all those things, your in hand would be 25 LPA, right? It could be that you're getting 25 LPA and your seat as a CTC, and your in hand is a little bit less than that, 21, 20, something like that, right? But this was like an average value. So you can get much more than that, you can get much less than that. It totally depends on your hard work and the amount of dedication you put into this entire thing, the kind of good habits that you build along the way. By good habits, I mean, just try to stay consistent. Consistency is a habit, it doesn't comes overnight. You need to be able to get into the habit of putting in those number of hours each and every day, because it's not easy. I mean, it feels like it's easy, but actually putting those number of hours is not easy. Like dedicating every day 8 to 10 hours is not easy, right? So if you do that, and if you're a fast learner, then definitely you're going to get that in hand, maybe more than that. Hey Apoorv, currently in my 6 Uh, yeah, it depends on your interest, Naman. So Naman asked if he should go for full stack or just DevOps. So it completely depends on your interest. If give it a try to both of the things, right? No one has asked you to just pick one right from day one, right? We all make transitions. When I started out with coding, I didn't have a clue about what web development is, right? I started with the basic, Python, and through Python I used to write scripts. So when I used to freelance in my early days, I used to create scripts where I used to create scrapers and all those things, and I never knew that I was going to pursue web development in the future, right? But when I started exploring other fields, what mobile dev is, I've had my fair share of contribution in mobile dev as well. I've done DevOps as well, I've done data science as well, machine learning and all those things, and I've done web development. So when I tried my hands along all those things, I had an intuition that web development is the best field for me, because I was interested in it, right? So try to branch out a little bit, just explore different things. DevOps पे अगर कोई boot camp है, go watch that boot camp on DevOps. If there's a boot camp on, let's say, full stack development, try to watch that boot camp on full stack dev. uh, One of the problem with the education is that if the person who is teaching you is not the right person, then they can completely kill your interest in that subject, right? It happened with me when I was in school. I absolutely hated physics, like completely hated physics up until I was in 10th. But in 11th, when I got into 11th, I had a teacher who was very good with physics, and the way they taught physics was very good, and physics became my favorite subject after that, right? So it also depends on who you're learning from. but it also depends on your interest as well. So there are some teachers who can kill your interest, there are some teachers who can build your interest, right? So you have to keep that in mind. Just don't stick to one course, explore different courses, see what works for you. And same answer for you, Tomar Aditya, as well. Should first I follow your Dev Bootcamp and then Kunal's DevOps Bootcamp, or vice versa? Same goes for you. Try to you know दोनों जगह हाथ पैर मारो थोड़े बहुत, दोनों को एक्सप्लोर करके देखो, ट्राई टू एक्सप्लोर बोथ ऑफ देम, एंड वट एवर सूट्स यू वेल, गो फॉर इट. So Noman Khan asks that I'm in 6th sem, almost at end, and I started DSA and Dev multiple times, but due to some issue left it. I want to know what should I do for the next 6 months. Uh, Tell me the reason why you left it. Then only I will answer. Right? Just reply your reason why you left it, and when I reach back to your answer, I'll address it. Okay, भाई साहब कितने सारे क्वेश्चंस हैं. Hi sir, right now I'm learning reactjs. Can you guide me after the reactjs what I need to learn? uh, reactjs कर लिए projects बनाओ, and after creating some projects, try to get into the advanced concepts of React as well. Try to understand what contexts are, what hooks are in React, and try out some different things that go well with React. So React is something a lot of companies still use Redux along with React, even though we have things like context and Redux, sorry, context and hooks. So a lot of companies still go with Redux. So you can try that out. You can try GraphQL. It goes very well with React.js. A lot of people use React.js plus GraphQL. You can try that out. You can go for backend development as well. Having some knowledge of backend development is definitely going to boost your career. And yeah, just build projects, and if you feel that you're job ready, start applying. Once you start applying to some interviews, you are going to get that idea that where are you exactly lacking when it comes to giving interviews, and what are the things that you need to improve, right? So that is a very important feedback that you need for yourself. Which one is more important, DSA or development? uh Both. So DSA can get you average jobs. I wouldn't deny that. A lot of companies that hire, TCS is hiring, and all these companies are hiring. They hire if you're, somewhat good with DSA and you can answer some basic questions in tech, but their packages are not good enough. I mean, 25, 30 lakhs, 25, 30 thousand per month. I don't think it's a good enough package. So to get better packages, development is definitely that you need, and focus on both. As I mentioned earlier, 1-2 घंटा DSA and बाकी का time dev. For backend, Node.js versus Django versus Java versus Golang, which is good? Yeah, depends. Whatever you like. For beginners, if I talk about completely for beginners, and I'm going to talk about my case, right? So Golang is very strictly typed. Right, Golang is a language that is very strictly typed. I mean, you cannot import any extra packages that you're not using and things like that. So it kind of becomes a little overwhelming for a beginner, right? So I wouldn't suggest Golang in the initial days. You can obviously switch back after you have some knowledge, and I'll talk about that just in a bit. Java, again, I feel that since Java has this primitive data types and secondary data types, and it sets a little bit lower as compared to Python. So I again personally don't prefer Java. Kunal and I have had a lot of debate on this, and we understand each other's point of view. Why we should do Java, why we should do Python. But yeah, I mean, my personal preference is that I don't like Java at all. So not going to recommend that. And JavaScript, Node.js is based out on JavaScript, and you know JavaScript is asynchronous in nature. So I feel that when you're learning backend, there are a lot of things when you're learning backend, right? There are things like, how do you do data validation? There are things like, how do you create APIs? How do you handle different errors? And there are also, different things that involve web development, like, how do you, manage the cookies, and how do you do authorization? How do you manage sessions and things like that? So there are a lot of things when it comes to backend, like the entire backend development. And when you try to learn backend, and you try to learn backend through a JavaScript based framework like Node.js, then what happens is that when you would actually be learning, you would be focused on two things, like handling the asynchronous nature of JavaScript along with learning the concepts of backend, right? And JavaScript is a very tricky language. I mean, personally, I feel that with all the things that JavaScript has, different, you can create a promise for this, and you can have callbacks for this and things like that. So with all the things that are there in JavaScript, if you mix that up with backend, and when you try to actually build projects with Node.js, majority of the times you would be stuck more on the problems of JavaScript, like the syntactical problems of JavaScript, rather than actually focusing on the backend concepts. Right. So personally, I prefer that you start with Python and pick a framework in Python. And again, in Python, I never recommend Django, because Django has predefined templates. But if you go with, let's say, Flask, which is a micro framework in Python, then Flask, in Flask you have to create everything from scratch, right? Even the it's not like कि कोई कमांड लिखा कि npm init या समथिंग लाइक दैट, जो भी होता है वो रिएक्ट के टेम्पलेट बनाने के कमांड्स होते हैं, जैंगो के टेम्पलेट बनाने के कमांड्स होते हैं. तो इट्स नॉट लाइक यू जस्ट राइट अ कपल ऑफ कमांड्स एंड you get an entire template in front of you. Flask में you have to do everything by yourself, like from scratch. Even जो initial file बनती है main.py और manage.py, you have to create it by yourself, right? So Flask is a very good first framework to start with. And if I give you my example, I personally started with Python, and after Python, I moved into Flask. But once I understood how backend works with Flask and things like that, I had no issue in switching into different frameworks. Right? I can, at this point of time, I can code in Django, I can code in Node.js, I can code in Java, I can code in Golang, I can use Spring Boot and all those frameworks that Java has, and I can also code in PHP as well. Right? So I can create backend in all of these languages, but only because I, in Rust as well, in Ruby as well, Ruby on Rails, if you want to really know. But yeah, I mean, I don't fear languages anymore. I mean, it's just like, कि if I'm talking in English, or मैं हिंदी में बात कर रहा हूँ, मैं हिंदी में बात करूँ या आई एम टॉकिंग इन इंग्लिश, इट्स द सेम थिंग. द कम्युनिकेशन रिमेन सेम, इट्स जस्ट अबाउट द लैंग्वेज फॉर मी नाउ, right? So I can switch to any language. And for switching into any language, I just need to remember the syntax of that language, because the concepts get same, right? So once you start, I mean, once you have a good grasp on the concepts, it's easy to switch, right? And Lakshya says that DSA right now, same question. Gurpreet says that, sir, I just got to know about remote job. I have only 6 months left for my graduation. So can I get a remote job if I study hard from scratch? Yes, you can do that. 6 months, I guess, is more than enough. Might take a little bit more than that. I wouldn't comment on that. It totally depends on how fast learner you are, and what is your retention of the concepts that you're actually learning and things like that. So it will depend on that. But somewhere around 6 months to 9 months, I think, is a good enough time if you study hard and if you are an average student. Like, you don't have to be extraordinary, but you have to put in the extra hours, right? So that is there. And for making websites, do we need to learn UI UX too? It's a complementary skill. So there are two things, right? In one of my videos, I talked about T-shaped developers, right? T-shaped developers are the one who have, a strong foundation or a deep, exposure to one field, and have, some basic knowledge about other things as well. But when we talk about web development and UI UX, right, it is, I think, in my opinion, it's a complementary skill, right? So a lot of people would also hire you if you have some front end skills, along with being able to design the UI UX. But I mean, I never got into UI UX, and it's not like कि UI UX नहीं आता होगा तो I mean you won't get a job. But for freelancing, yes, I mean you would go get a lot more projects if you are someone who can handle both the UI UX as well as front end or the web development in general. So freelancing के लिए it works for jobs. If you're really good with front end, no one is going to look for a complementary skill in you. And if you're a T-shaped developer, then so I mean I don't have to uh, answer that. Can you tell me some of your good achievements? उसका टाइम आएगा बताने का. I mean, there would be time when I will share my achievements. There are a lot of achievements. If you really want to know one achievement, I used to play martial arts for 8 or 9 years. I think I have played martial arts for about 8 or 9 years, and the last competition I played was in 2015. It was an international martial arts games, and I won a gold medal for India in that. So that is also a good achievement that I feel. I was good in sports, and yeah, in terms of tech and in terms of career, there are a lot of achievements I will share sometime later, not today. And one of the recent achievements is that I achieved 1K subscribers, so you can take that as also as an achievement, right? Yuvraj Singh says that I'm learning Web3 right now, and I'm just confused how to find opportunities via Twitter, as I've heard from many people, as Twitter is gold mine for developers. How is it? Please guide. Yeah, so I'll tell you something, Yuvraj. So what happens is that when you learn something and you share about it on Twitter, so the Twitter algorithm tries to push it among the local region, right? And it would display your learnings and different things to a lot of people who are doing similar things, right? So a lot of students who are learning Web3, they would also start seeing your post, and eventually they'll start following you. Why they'll start following you? Because they are also interested in the same thing, and it could be that you have some resources that might be helpful to them, right? Or you have learned something that they might want to see, right? So they'll start following you. Now what happens is that when you start growing your network, right, when you start growing your network, there are also a lot of recruiters and companies or a lot of people who are willing to hire people, right? And as we know, I mean, आज के time पे, even if I let's say in this video, if I let's say talk about I want to buy a new speaker, अब मुझे speaker के ad आने लग जाएंगे अभी थोड़ी देर में. So you know how the algorithm works in today's time, right? So if let's say you're into Web3, a lot of people who want to hire developers for Web3, they'll start seeing your content, and they'll start following you कि एक बार देखते हैं what this guy is doing, right? Let's just check out what this guy is doing. And when the right time comes, they would reach out to you, right? So it's a part of networking, right? When you share your learnings in Twitter, and when you actually start growing your network, what you're doing is you are networking, indirectly. And when you are networking, these networks, abhi kuch time mein, if let's say I have 3 followers and I post something, then their followers would start seeing my content. If let's say I gain some followers from there, then their followers would start seeing my content. It just keeps growing, right? And sometime or the other, if you are consistent with your approach, sometime or the other it would reach some sort of recruiters. And whenever let's say you want to have some opportunities, whenever let's say you post that I'm open to jobs, or whenever you post that I want to get a job in Web3, or I'm a ready developer, a lot of people will reach out to you that can you share your resume, or can you share this, can you share that, right? A lot of people will start reaching out to you, and in that sense, I mean, it would be easier for you to find jobs. So that is why Twitter is gold, because a lot of tech people and recruiters are there on Twitter. And yeah, so that is there. Is web dev needed for DevOps? Answered that already. How to get internship? How to get an internship? So yeah, I mean, getting an internship is similar to getting a job in many sense. The only difference is that they do not expect you to be as expert as they would expect you to be in a job. So just maintain a good profile, try to build a lot of projects as much as you can. And whenever you're rolling out your resume, whenever you're rolling out your resume to a company or a recruiter, then one of the most major things that the recruiters look for. So I mean, even I have personally done some hiring, and I'll tell you what I look for, whenever I'm looking at a resume. So the first thing is that whenever we try to hire someone, uh, we generally get a lot of applications. We already know that there's so much competition around us, right? There are so many people in tech looking for the same jobs. एक job में 50 100 applicants होते हैं who are trying to apply for the same job, right? So even we get all these resumes, and when we have to shortlist on the basis of resume, majority of the time what happens is that we just try to skim through the resume. If the resume is too big, if the resume is, let's say, 3 4 page big, then most of the recruiters just skip that resume. क्या इतना टाइम नहीं है देखने का. The if you cannot explain what are your achievements and what are your experiences and what you have done in simple short terms, if you cannot explain it in a resume in simple short terms, then I mean the recruiters don't have enough time to go through that entire resume, right? If their resume is, let's say, more than 2 pages, they are simply going to skip it. And some recruiters even skip resumes that are 2 pages long. So try to have a 1 page resume, right? That's the first thing. And second thing is that whatever role they are hiring for, they are just looking for some keywords. So similar as to how SEO works, they are just looking for some keywords. They are hiring for, let's say, some DevOps role which requires Docker or Kubernetes, right? So they'll see what are your experiences, what are your projects that you have worked on. They'll see if you have used those keywords Docker and Kubernetes. If you have, then they'll try to read it in a little bit of detail, right? Then they'll try to read it in a little bit of detail कि Docker या Kubernetes में what have you done, right? तुमने किया क्या है Docker और Kubernetes में. So if they feel like you have some sort of good exposure in those technologies, they're going to reach out to you, and that's how you get interview scheduled. Interview schedule होने के बाद it's very simple. I mean, first is an HR round, second I think there's a DSA round or something, and if you're going for an internship role, then again, I mean, first is a DSA or an HR round, second is a DSA or an HR round. I mean, जो भी पहले हो गया दूसरे वाला दूसरा होगा. ठीक है, तो ये 2 राउंड्स होते हैं, एंड उसके बाद थर्ड राउंड very rarely for internships is that you get in touch with a developer. They are going to ask you a few questions and then you get hired. टेक्निकल हायरिंग फॉर जॉब्स में थोड़ा सा डिफरेंट होता है. थोड़ा सा डिफरेंट ऐसे होता है कि द फर्स्ट राउंड इज़ दी HR राउंड वेयर दे लुक फॉर योर कम्युनिकेशन स्किल्स. सेकंड राउंड इज़ मेजरली DSA, जहाँ पे 3 प्रॉब्लम्स देते हैं वो डेटा स्ट्रक्चर्स एंड एल्गोरिदम्स की. टाइम्ड प्रॉब्लम्स होती हैं तुम्हारा. यू जनरली हैव जस्ट 60 to 90 minutes फॉर that. And 50 60 minutes to 90 minutes, whatever the time is, उसमें you have to solve these questions. तीन में से अगर दो भी क्वेश्चन सॉल्व हो गए, 3 out of 2, if you are able to solve them, majority of the times the rounds get cleared. You reach out to the third round. Third round में most of the times there's going to be a developer who is going to ask you how did you solve these questions, and they might give you a live problem to solve in front of them. Then sometimes there's a fourth round as well where another engineer would connect with you and they'll ask you some technical questions, right? A technical round is in terms of knowledge, how much knowledge or depth you have. And then some companies give some project to build, a very small project, a simple project to build, but it has a very crisp uh, requirement set of requirements that they need to have in the project. And if you complete it, then that project gets reviewed and you get hired, if it is a good project, if you did a good job, right? So that's how it happens. And again, I mean, whenever you're building a portfolio, your main objective is that whatever skills you have, try to implement those skills in the project, because these are the projects that the recruiter is going to see, and they are going to judge you on the basis of this, right? And yeah, that is there. Is open source contributions compulsory to become a good developer? It helps, but I wouldn't say it's compulsory. Personally, I have never done an open source contribution. I have contributed in open source once in my life, and that was too because I mean I was working on Flask, and in Flask I got irritated by one particular feature. I thought it could have been implemented better. So what I did was I created an issue on GitHub, and I created a PR for that issue. Like I solved that code after going into after cloning the Flask code and making some changes. I raised a PR and it got accepted. So that is the only open source contribution I've ever made in my life. उसके अलावा आई हैव नेवर मेड एनी ओपन सोर्स कॉन्ट्रीब्यूशंस. सो आई वुडंट से दैट इट इज़ कंपल्सरी, बट it is good to do. I mean, one of the problem with me was that जैसे आज के time पे there are a lot of people who are advocating for open source, right? There are a lot of people who are coming up कि open source contributions करो, do open source contribution, it will help you, it will help you. So since a lot of people are doing that in today's time, when I was learning back in the days, there was not much awareness around it, right? If I knew about it, I would have definitely done it, but since I wasn't aware about it, I didn't do it, right? So that is there. So I wouldn't say that it is compulsory, but it is good because it is going to add into your experience, right? Whatever experience you will add in your resume, if the people see that you have made an open source contribution. What is an open source contribution, right? An open source contribution is that you are contributing to a project for free, right? Obviously you're getting to learn out of it, but you're contributing towards the project for free. So when you actually make an open source contribution, whenever a technical person or a technical recruiter looks at it, the first impression that they will get out of you is that you are very passionate about development, right? You're very passionate about development. And if they feel that you're passionate about development, then they also psychologically collate a lot of other qualities with you as well, that you must be a good learner, you must be very eager to learn, and you're passionate, you're very curious, and you focus on getting things done, things like that. They will have a very good impression about you. So that's why, I mean, open source contribution helps in that as well, because then the recruiter would know that you're passionate about it, you are eager to learn, and you're hungry to learn, right? And these are the kinds of people that they want to hire, right? So that is there. And please upload this live stream on your channel. Definitely will, after some time. I mean, after a couple of hours when this gets over. I love the concept of T-shaped developer. Thanks, Priyanshu. Thanks a lot. What skills are necessary for applying for a front-end developer role, and what salary can I expect? Uh, Again, watch that T-shaped developer. Salary kind of depends on your skill set. If you have the skills, then you are in a better position to negotiate your salary. And if you don't have the skills, then the recruiter is in a better position to hire you for less pay, right? So it depends on demand supply. I mean, marketing itna, I mean, commerce, for the folks who are from the non-tech field, from commerce field, the demand supply, right? If you're not, you don't create a demand for yourself in the market based on your skills, why are you going to get a high salary? Right? You need to create a demand for yourself that मेरे को तो और jobs मिल जाएंगी. I will get a lot of opportunities. You are losing here. Right? This should be what you aim for. कि I will get a lot of opportunities. I mean, ठीक है. I mean, you're not giving me the salary that I want. I will get a lot of opportunities. I don't have any, like, I'm not desperate for this job. But if you want to hire me, I need this much money. As simple as that. And the recruiters will bend to you if you have those skills. And for skills that you should have for front end development, कोई भी एक front end library, just pick any one of the front end libraries, be good at it, right? That's something that you should do. Be good at it, build a lot of projects in it, and you should know how to apply those concepts in different use cases. So even for front end, there are a lot of different types of projects that are there. Sometimes you can create a static website, for front end. Sometimes you can create a website with some effects like parallax effect and things like that. And sometimes you can create a front end for let's say some video streaming software, or you can create a front end for a those news websites that are there currently. I mean, there are a lot of websites who are showing live news on a lot of issues going around in the world. Try to build those kind of projects. Just showcase that you know a lot of stuff, and you can implement those same set of skills in a lot of use cases, and you're going to get high paying jobs, right? So that is there. How can we prepare for FAANG? डीएसए डीएसए फैंग के लिए बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट होता है. डीएसए करो फैंग में. उसमें फैंग के लिए, आई मीन, थोड़ा डीएसए, it takes a little bit of intermediate to advanced level of DSA to clear FANGs. Generally, I mean, for web development roles, the DSA that you need is somewhat on an intermediate level or below that. बहुत rare होता है. I mean, it's very rare that you get a very advanced level high question for a web development job in terms of DSA. But FANG में it's common that you get those intermediate to high level questions, advanced questions in DSA rounds. So you need to be very good at DSA, and I mean, by good at DSA I mean at least 200 hours of practice in DSA is a must to get a job in FANG, and 200 hours is a lot of time. So be prepared to give it that, and along with that, your basics of the general computer science should be very good. If you're applying for, let's say, and I mean, even in this large companies, it's not like what happens is that they hire you first and then decide what role you are going to get in the company. So software development is very dynamic, right? I have a few friends who got selected into, they applied to a software SD1, they applied for SD1, SD2, they got into FANG. और FANG में जाने के बाद their entire field was on DevOps, but they got put into the web dev team. That happens a lot with tech. So you cannot be stagnant. You cannot be like कि मैंने DevOps कर लिया है and I'm good at DevOps and now I don't want to study anything else. They would put you in teams and you have to comply with that. There are a lot of people who clear interviews based on their mobile development skills, and the companies places them into the web development team or the DevOps team. So you should be dynamic, right? You should not have this mindset कि एक चीज मैंने कर ली, I've done this one thing, I won't do anything else. The learning keeps happening, right? The learning keeps happening. You have to make a switch. And that's how T-shaped developers also comes into picture, right? I mean, uh, you cleared an interview based on your mobile dev skills, and then you got placed into web dev. So when you, let's say, complete your tenure in this company and leave this company and then go for look for a different job, now you're a T-shaped developer. You might be good with web development, but you also know mobile development as well, right? So these kinds of things happens in companies. So like, be mindful of that. I don't have a question. It's just I don't have a question, but just wanted to let you know that you are awesome. Thanks, Uday. Thanks, Uday. Thanks for creating high value content. Okay. Sir, currently I'm pursuing BBA but want to make career in tech. So should I do MCA and masters, or could you suggest something else? मत करो, MCA मत करो. I wouldn't suggest you do MCA. पहले एक बार देख लो. I mean, try to get your hands into coding. Try to start doing some writing some code and do some coding. And once you get into coding, just see if that this even interests you or not. Because if you want to succeed in this field, in the field of tech, you should be passionate about tech, right? And it could be in any field. So for me personally, I personally don't like, let's say, mobile development as much, right, as compared to web development or DevOps. I'm not a mobile development guy. It's not like I don't know mobile development, but the amount of quality I can attain in a web development project, I can definitely not attain that same amount of quality in a mobile development project, right? Why? Because I'm passionate about web development. Whenever I'll try to build something in web development, I would keep searching for different questions on Google, that how to do this, how to do that, and how to improve my code. And I'll always be very curious about whatever I'm building, right? And that curiosity comes out of passion. Right, so need to be passionate about that field. Give it a try first, and then decide if you want to do it or not. MCA is definitely not required for getting into tech. I'm sitting here without a degree, so how will an MCA help, right? And Q&A. I'm learning Web3 right now. I've already answered this one. How do remote? How do network with other folks in Twitter? Just keep posting. I mean, the people who are interested in your content, they will come to you. They will maybe DM you or something. And divide your Twitter into different sections. I mean, what I have seen in most of the people do. So I am the sort of person who, observes a lot. I don't directly go googling and reading blogs about how to go grow Twitter or things like that. And I usually just observe what the other people are doing. So as per my observations, what I have seen is that to grow your network, to actually grow your network, threads work a lot. Create a lot of threads if you can. They get comparatively better reach than normal posts that we do on Twitter. And secondly, engagement posts go a long way, right? A lot of people are there who schedule one or two engagement posts in a week, and that drives a lot of growth for them, right? Engagement posts like you know create a fill in the blank kind of a tweet, or you ask some question and expect the people to reply in the comment section below, or you can do those kind of stuff. The engagement, the posts that are going to drive engagement. So if, let's say, I say that uh, how do I explain this? So let's say I write a tweet where I say that JavaScript is dash, right, with a couple of underscores. A lot of people are going to comment on that post, and that is going to drive engagement for me. And if it drives engagement, I'm going to grow my network, right? So try to keep a couple of posts for about that. Or you could write a simple post on Netflix asking what is your favorite web series on Netflix, or what is your favorite, what do you like more, Netflix or Amazon Prime? Just ask a question that is more like a debate. People will start debating on your tweet, and it will automatically bring more engagement to you, more reach to you, and eventually more followers to you, which will grow your network, right? So that is like my observation, what a lot of people do. Open Twitter, validate this fact. I can tell you a lot of people do that, right? So that is there. And what is phase 4? Watch the video. I mean, can't explain that again. If BCA degree, just fine for, or I need a BTech to get that first step through the door. BCA degree is just enough. Yeah, I mean, I don't have a degree, and even if I did have a degree, I was pursuing BCA, right? So, I mean, I would have been the same stage as you in terms of my education qualification. Currently, I am below in terms of education qualification. I am a high school pass out, and you guys, I mean, just because we are doing a live, you guys won't believe it. I have a friend who completed his 10th. Like, the last education qualification he has is he completed his 10th class, and after that he dropped out of school, right? And he has made it big, right? He cleared his interviews in Tesla. तो डिग्री विग्री सब ऐसी ही है यार, मतलब लेनी है ले लो, कोई बात नहीं, कोई नहीं रोक रहा तुमको. बट बीसीए बीटेक से बड़ा है, बीटेक बीसीए से बड़ा है. काफ़ी कंपनी सोचती है, सोचने दो यार, स्किल सबसे बड़ा है. इफ़ यू हैव द स्किल्स, नो वन इज़ गोइंग टू स्टॉप यू. मीन इट्स सिंपल. Naveen Kumar says, bro, I request you to not make delay in making videos after starting the boot camp. I'll tell you something. So next Friday is 29th April. I have a video scheduled for that already. Next to next Friday is 6th May. I have a video scheduled for that already. Right. I'm already running 3 weeks ahead of my schedule right now. Right. And if we talk about the first bootcamp video for 13th May, I have the content ready for that. Again, in this register that I showed you earlier, I have the content ready for that. And tonight I'm going to start recording that video, right? So just don't think that the bootcamp is going to run behind, because I have it planned, I have it sorted. And my objective is that I am going to, yes, Sumit, we can see your comments. My objective is to stay 1 month ahead of my bootcamp, so that I can plan in peace, right? Because creating content is not easy, but and definitely, I mean, creating tech content is not easy, but I want that peace of mind to create quality content. So already I am 1 month ahead of my schedule, right? I will. And I mean, tonight I'm not just going to schedule the first video on the 13th May wala video. I'm going to schedule, like, shoot two videos together, the 13th May and the 20th May wala video. I'm going to shoot both of them together. So I'm 1 month in ahead, right? So bootcamp is definitely not going to be delayed, and don't worry about that. And Yuvraj, again the same question, I've answered it already. Just have patience, guys. I'm going through all the questions one by one. And Rohit Prasad says that, can you give us job referrals to us after completing your web dev bootcamp? I'll try. I'll try. I wouldn't promise anything, but I'll try. I have a few strong networks who can definitely, get you into some good startups. And these startups are high paying. I mean, they offer great salaries. They're desperate to hire me, but I just reject their offer each and every time they ask. But yeah, I'll try to get some of the good folks. I'll try to refer some of the good folks. Now, if you are someone average, then definitely I'm not going to use my referral on that. But if you are really someone extraordinary, definitely I'm going to push through my network if you can, uh, if they can offer you a job, right? Just give me 1 minute now. Okay. So Vishal says that, hi Apoorv, I'm a dropout. Very well. My college study in my second year of my third year college tech degree, because I cannot pursuing my degree because of my financial family. How it harm career? Not much. If you put in the hard work, it wouldn't do any harm. I mean, I'm damn certain about it. See, there's a way to market yourself, right? I'll tell you how I market myself. So marketing or sales is like a very great skill that you should have in life, and I'll tell you how I market myself. So a lot of people might think, looking at my situation, that I don't have a degree, so how do I get offered so many jobs, or how did I gain so much experience, or things like that. But the formula for that is very simple. Use the story to your advantage, right? What I display to people, I am selling myself to, when let's say I'm trying to get a job or anything, maybe trying to clear an interview. What I usually do is I just ask them to look at my potential, the potential that I have, right? So I usually just ask them, ki, see, I mean, I am someone who is, 23 years old right now. And right now I'm 23, right? Earlier, when I was actually, doing all those jobs and things like that, I was 20. Right. So I used to say that, see, I'm 20 years old right now, and I don't have a college degree. My highest education qualification is high school, and I still have all these skills. So can you imagine the potential that I have? It's your loss if you're losing me. I am willing to work for you guys. This is the salary that I want. It's your loss if you're losing me. This is the kind of attitude I used to show. This is the kind of attitude I used to have, just playing purely on my potential. Because see, if I am someone without a college degree, and without a college degree at the age of 20, I have enormous amount of skills. Or not just 20, I mean 23, 24. Most of the people who are doing college, by the time they pass out, maybe through after completing their bachelor's or their masters, what age are they? They are generally 23, 24 years old, right? No matter whatever how much drop they took, they're generally, the average age is 23, 24 years old, right? The people who are actually completed their education and are now looking for jobs. So most of the people are in that age group. And even if you are in that age group, and you tell the recruiter that I am similar to them, I didn't have a college degree, but I still know a lot more than the average college students that are there. So just imagine the kind of potential that I have. The Just imagine the kind of hard work I have put in, and how hardworking I must be to be able to reach this stage. And just see if you want to lose a person like me, because I have a lot of offers. It works. Right? So that is your answer, Vishal. There's no harm. It's just that you need to convert the situation to your advantage, right? You need to look at the positives in this situation, and you need to be able to sell these positives to the people who are buying it, right? DevOps and Web3, are there any hybrid jobs? Yes, definitely, because Web3 को भी deploy करना पड़ता है ना, right? So there are definitely hybrid jobs for that. The process is a little different. I myself would have to study a little bit about how blockchain applications actually get deployed, but yeah, I mean there's definitely that hybrid role. And DevOps is very complementary to Web3 actually. So if you are someone who is mainly pursuing Web3 and you have complementary DevOps skills, or if you are someone who is mainly pursuing DevOps and you have complementary Web3 skills, there are hybrid roles and you are going to get a good package. Kumar Ayush says that, hey Apoorv, since your web dev is going to be in Python, so solving DSA simultaneously, a beginner should do in Python or can do in Java. Kunal's Bootcamp in DSA with Java. What's your advice in this? Again, the same answer. Uh, it depends on what language you prefer. I personally like Python. I love Python. So whatever DSA problem I would have in front of me, I would always solve it in Python. Wouldn't even care about what solution would come in any other language. My solution always comes in Python. It depends on your preference, right? It always depends on your preference. It's like you're doing the same thing, right? I am communicating right now. Now it doesn't matter if I communicate in English या मैं हिंदी में बात करूं. It doesn't matters at all, right? What is the main objective? The main objective is communication, right? So जावा में कम्युनिकेट करना है जावा में करो, पाइथन में करना है पाइथन में करो, जावास्क्रिप्ट में करना है जावास्क्रिप्ट में करो, जिसमें करना है करो, सी प्लस प्लस, सी, गो, रस्ट, जिसमें करना है करो, कोई फर्क नहीं पड़ता. प्रॉब्लम सॉल्विंग स्किल्स अच्छे होने चाहिए, तब डीएसए हो जाएगा, लैंग्वेज से फर्क नहीं पड़ता. एंड आई फील दैट पाइथन इज़ अ गुड फर्स्ट लैंग्वेज टू पिक, बिकॉज जावा में बहुत सारी चीज़ें होती हैं जो इतनी एब्स्ट्रैक्ट नहीं होती. जावा इज़ नॉट एज एब्स्ट्रैक्ट एज पाइथन. सो जावा लाइक exposes you to a lot of details that are there, you know, what is low level memory management, and you know, how, you know, variables get stored in memory and things like that. Python mein you don't have to worry that much about those things, because I mean there's a lot of layers of abstraction above it, and it's a good first language. Once you have some, you know, basics of Python and things like that, then it becomes easy to jump into other languages and expand your knowledge, like how other languages work at a much lower level. But again, I mean, I'm new to YouTube, so not used to the shout out language, but shout out to Kunal's DSA Bootcamp. He has done an excellent job teaching Java. I mean, I myself watched a few videos and I was like, अरे ये तो मुझे भी नहीं पता था वाला वाला stuff. ठीक है तो I mean, we just keep learning from each other, right? It's not like his knowledge is complete or my knowledge is complete. We are also still learning, right? Continuously learning, and we admire each other, right? The amount of skills we have, both of us, and the amount of knowledge we have, we just admire each other. It's not like it's a competition between us or anything, and I mean, we are just in awe of each other. That yeah, इसने कितना कुछ कर लिया. I mean, the kind of contribution he has done is open source. I can't even imagine it. मैंने आज तक एक contribution नहीं किया, एक को छोड़ के. I mean, just leave that one contribution alone. But apart from that, I've never even made a single contribution in open source. Right. And similarly, Kunal, if you talk about Kunal, then he also sometimes, you know, look at me and says कि बिना डिग्री के मैंने इतना कुछ कर लिया. है ना, तो वे it's complementary, but again, I mean, the way he has taught Java, it is excellent. You can definitely go through that course and learn Java through that. I don't think there's any better course available on that, because मैंने बहुत course देखे Udemy पे भी, but I didn't find that quality anywhere. So kudos to that. But yeah, I mean, personally I prefer Python. So I mean, I would always recommend Python, but again, it's your preference. It's just about the language. बाकी का सब same है. Uh, Bro, DSA is important for answered it already. Explore karo. Kedar asked that what open source projects do I contribute to become exceptional? Just explore. Whatever project appeals to you, just contribute to that. It's not like one project is better than the other. All projects are same. It is open source for a reason, right? So whatever appeals to you, contribute to that. Can you make a dedicated video on taxes? How to deal with them? Freelancing पे I'll make videos. Taxes पे I'll see. Taxes, I mean, in the last podcast with Kunal, he explained taxes. I don't think there's anything more to explain in taxes. I'm specialized in backend or front end. Well, I think I'm specialized in backend, but my front end is pretty good. So at one point of time, I used to think my backend is better than my front end, but it's not the case anymore. I think both of them are good now, exceptional. What's the price of your bootcamp? It's free. It would be available on YouTube. I should have mentioned this in the video now that I look back at it that it's free. A lot of people ask me this. Interview process for remote work. Same as an in-office job. There's no like extra steps or extra rounds in a remote work interview. It's similar, and I've already explained that process to a previous question where I was explaining like how you can get internships. So I explained the entire interview process there. You can go check that out. If possible, please make a dedicated video on how we can start with freelance. I will. Again, I mentioned in my roadmap video after the like when the phase one would be completed, I would create some videos on freelancing dedicatedly, and I'll focus each and everything like how freelancing works, how you start with them, what are the things to look for, how to avoid getting scammed in freelancing because that happens a lot, and that would be there. How much skill needed to get started with freelancing? Phase one, just look at my bootcamp. Phase one में जो mention किया है मैंने, that is all you need. After that, I mean, I am creating freelancing videos because I feel it's more than enough to start freelancing. But people start at much less, yeah. I mean, there are projects that are data entry projects in freelancing. I mean, you uh, and it pays a lot. I mean, I still remember I did a freelancing project. It was like one of my most value for money project, I would say. So there was this one freelancing project which had some images. It had some images of an Excel sheet. It was an Excel sheet, and it had an image with all the cells filled in with a lot of data, and there were a lot of images, and the guy was looking for someone to uh, you know type this data into an actual Excel sheet, and he was paying I think about $10 for a sheet, and there were about 200 sheets I think with a lot of data, right? So the project's total worth was $2,000, right? And luckily I had a script that can I created, I coded a script, right? I coded a script, so I already had a script who could take some text out of an image and process it. I tweaked it a little bit and tweaked it in a sense that it took the data of the image and pasted it in an Excel sheet, right? And that tweaking of the code took me 2 hours. The execution of that code took about half an hour or 45 minutes, I don't remember. Within 3 hours I completed a project worth $2,000, right? So yeah, I mean, you just need to be creative, right? You just need to know how to apply your skills to your strengths, right? And yeah, it's going to work out for you. It's learning DevOps. Hamad, I've already answered it. I think because when I told you that I already have videos scheduled in the pipeline, then I mean I wasn't just bluffing that. I couldn't show it to you right now, but I like couple of days ago on my Instagram I like created a story where even before the like after right after the podcast of with Kunal, I posted a story on Instagram where I mentioned that my next week's video is already scheduled, so I'm already running ahead of schedule, and tonight I'm going to record the first video of the bootcamp. You guys might say that Apoorv, post it early. We want to start early, but if I start posting it right now, then later on with some, later on, with some difficult topics, when I'll actually need some time to prepare the content, it wouldn't just work out. I mean, later on when I actually need time to process some, or maybe fill my knowledge gaps to, let's say, create a video and provide complete information to you in a video, then it's not going to work out. If let's say later on I create a video for which even I need a week to create it, right? And I have a lot of work along with that, then how am I going to adjust that video? It's just going to get delayed indefinitely after that, right? So that's why I'm maintaining this buffer for myself, right? You guys would say that, Apoorv, if you have the videos in pipeline, start posting it right now, but I won't do that. I will post it when I've scheduled it, because I mean I need this time in the middle, the 2-3 weeks that I have in the middle. I want to make sure that in the May's month itself I have the content ready till July end, right? Because that 2 months of extra buffer that I'm going to get out of it, it is going to ensure that the bootcamp is will never get delayed, right? So there would be a time where there would be more than one video coming out in a week, but I need time to build those videos, right? Otherwise, I mean, the quality would be affected. And if the quality is affected, then it's of no use. There's already so much content available online, which which you can refer to. So if you're looking for quality, then I need my time. So that is there. And how do I showcase my projects? We are going to create a portfolio website. You can showcase your projects in that. I mean, we are going to discuss that in the bootcamp. Gentleman Kumar. Okay. When are you going to start this course? Already answered that. Stark Hunt, not sure, man. I mean, I'm not sure uh, if there's any channel who covers Android developments, DevOps. There are a lot of YouTube videos. Yeah, I mean, there are a lot of YouTube videos on how to. There's a Google documentation. There's a complete Google documentation on how you can, submit your applications to be posted on App Store and Play Store. So you can go check that out, and the backend gets deployed in a similar way. I mean, if you have also built a backend, then that backend is going to get deployed in a similar way as any other web development project or anything, right? There's nothing different in that, so you don't have to worry about that. And Yuvraj Singh, I've asked this question like countless times, and I've answered it once, so I'm not sure why he's asking again and again. If you missed that answer, just go back and watch it again, or I'll post it like later on. Just watch it in that. When you asked it first time, I answered it. Which is better, learning from tutorial or learning from docs? It's your preference. It's your preference. Next Friday I'm going to drop a video where I'm going to tell you the best way to learn from a tutorial, because a lot of students try a lot of students like to learn from videos, like to learn from tutorials, but I feel that the way that they learn it in, it's not apt, right? There's a lot of you can utilize your time better even if you are going through a tutorial. So I have created a video on that. It is going to be posted on 29th April. You can check that out for your answer. You have any idea about Android? Is this good when you have hybrid option? Yeah, I mean, not exactly Android. I have not worked directly. I have worked with Java and Kotlin, but not in detail. I have had experience of mobile development through hybrid, technologies like Flutter and React Native. So yeah, I mean, I have that, and again, I mean, for a hybrid option, even when you're building a mobile application, in my bootcamp, the second phase of it, I mentioned serverless architecture. So you're going to understand, and it is a very complementary skill. If you're building an application, it sets up an application like pretty fast, and you can create an entire application with backend functionality under $6, and under $6 of infrastructure per month. So $6 is what, um, about 500 rupees. So below 500 rupees, you can set up the entire infrastructure for an application that can generate revenues for lakhs of rupees. Right? And that's serverless architecture for you. So check that out. That is a very good hybrid option for mobile development, a complementary skill for mobile app development. Hamad, I've already answered this. Elias Khan, suggestion for Web3. Shall I try? If yes, then some resources. Again, if you want to try, it depends on you. Uh, and I've already said that you should try to, uh, branch out a little bit. थोड़ा हाथ पैर मार के देखो इधर उधर, see what works out for you. Because even I wasn't sure I was going to get into web development earlier, right? But when I explored a little bit and I actually liked web development a lot, I went into it. I went for it, and not just web development. In the initial stage, I used to hate front end development, and I loved back end development. So I was a back end developer, but like over the time, after gaining so much experience and things like that, I like became a full stack, and along with not just full stack, I like also gained experience in other things as well, like data engineering, mobile development, and things like that. So those things are going to keep coming, right, over the time. You just need a starting node for that. Mohammed Salik, it again depends on your so your question is that I have an offer of 3.5 LPA with TCS. Should I go ahead with it, or should I wait and upskill myself and look for a job later? It depends on your financial situation. If you're someone who can wait out a little bit, uh, if you're, let's say, from a well like a well settled family or something, then I would suggest that you wait for it, because these jobs are very exhausting. So I have a I have a friend, and he does a regular in-office job, and I'll tell you his schedule, right? So in his regular in-office job, and he has been like desperate to upskill, right? He has been desperate to upskill and get a better pay, get a better package. But I'll tell you what happens with him. So to for his regular in-office job, his shift starts from I think uh, 10 in the morning, and ends at about 6 in the evening, something like that, right? But I mean, since he does an in-office job, his office is pretty far from his home, right? So he has to wake up at around 7 in the morning, and since office hours, there's a lot of traffic going on in the roads and things like that. He starts at 7 a.m. in the morning, right? Wakes up at 7 a.m. in the morning, leaves home at around 8, 8:30, something like that, because that initial 1:30, uh, 1 hour, 1 hour, 30 minute, whatever it is, it just takes for the preparation for the day, right? Getting ready, taking a bath, having breakfast, and things like that. So he leaves home at 8, 8:30, reaches office by 10, or a little bit later than that, if there's a lot of traffic, right? From 10 to 6 he works in the office, then 6:15 or something like that he leaves the office, right? And after leaving the office, he reaches home by around 8:30 or 9, something like that. And then again, since he has to wake up at 7 in the morning, he has to sleep by 12. So the time that he has left for himself is just 3 hours, and in that he has to do dinner as well. And since you have worked the entire day, you also want to chill out a little bit, maybe watch some Netflix, या अभी आजकल आईपीएल चल रहा है, थोड़ा आईपीएल देख लो. आज वैसे भी मुंबई इंडियंस का मैच है, जीते नहीं है भाई लोग अभी तक, बट so I mean, you can do all of those things, but yeah, I mean, since I'm telling you this, and this is not just what with one friend. I mean, I know a lot of people who go through this entire cycle, है ना. उनके पास दिन में ज़्यादा से ज़्यादा 1-2 घंटा बचता है. After doing so much hard work, they're just left with 1-2 hours. And now you tell me if you can upskill in 1-2 hours, right? So it's a tough decision. I wouldn't say that it's an easy decision. Some people have to take that decision because their family conditions do not allow it, right? If let's say you are struggling with paying your bills and things like that, then this might sound like a lucrative offer, 3.5 LPA CTC in TCS, which again, a lot of developers come from TCS and later on, you know do a lot of things, and TCS takes care of their employees. I would give it to them. uh, but yeah, I mean, it's a tough decision. So you can consult some people who are working at TCS. What's their day like? You will find a lot of answers on Quora. The people who are working in TCS, just search that how much free time would I be left with in a day if I work in TCS. Right, just search for it, just see if that's making sense to you. If you feel that you can upskill in that free time, dedicate that amount of hard work, and if you're getting that time in the first place, and then make your decision, right? How to get a job in foreign country which offers relocation? Pretty difficult. Pretty difficult. A company that offers relocation, you need to be extraordinary for that. As a student, you should not have that as your goal. Right, have some sort of experience before, at least 2.5 years of experience, and then start thinking about that. I start courses, but if I miss one day, I will lose streak, and I feel like learning, but I won't start and regretting it all day. So in my non-tech job, I have night shift and sleep all day. Okay. Uh, this is this. I don't know what to say to this, but yeah, I mean, you again. I mean, it's habit. So even if you have a night shift is what, like, usually it's from around 10 to 7 8 in the morning, right? Just as soon as the shift gets over, just have some breakfast and sleep, right? Try to sleep by 9 9:30, try to wake up by 4 or 5, and then that 5 p.m. to 11 p.m., whatever that time is, just try to invest that time in your learning, right? I mean, it's very easy when we are in a difficult spot. I'll tell you something. When we are in a difficult spot, it is very easy for us to give excuses, right? That मेरे साथ ज़िंदगी में ये हो गया इसलिए मैं कुछ नहीं कर पाया, मेरे साथ ज़िंदगी में वो हो गया इसलिए मैं कुछ नहीं कर पाया. At one point of time in 2017, when I was struggling with my life, I completed my school, and then I completed my college. I completed my school and I didn't get a college. I didn't get a college, and I was from day in day out. I used to travel to these different locations throughout the city to give interviews for call centers. When I was going through all of that, I used to also blame the situation. I was like कि यार मेरे साथ life में ये हो गया, just because I wasn't financially sound I have to do all this. And then one day when I realized that you know who am I to blame 5 years or 10 years from now because of this? Am I to blame the situation? Problems तो सबकी लाइफ में होती हैं. ऐसा तो है नहीं सिर्फ मेरी लाइफ में या किसी और की लाइफ में, सबकी लाइफ में होती है ना? तो I mean, the main thing is that you keep those problems aside and start looking for solutions and start working for those solutions instead of, you know, like dwelling into those problems, because problems आती रहेंगी, उनको excuse बना के shield की तरह अपने आगे रख के उनके पीछे छुपे रहना बहुत आसान है कि यार I mean all these things happened with my life and that's why I'm not able to achieve anything. भाई सक्सेस स्टोरी इमेजिन करो ना, अगर इन सबको भी साइड करके तुमने सक्सेस अचीव कर ली, क्या मस्त सक्सेस स्टोरी बनेगी. मतलब लोग मिसाल देंगे सालों तक. So you'd become an example, you'd become an inspiration for a lot of people, right? In at least in your local circle, right? In your local community, जो लोग तुमको let's say आज के टाइम पे डाउट करते हैं, even in the society, in the neighborhood, if let's say some people point out fingers towards you कि I mean you didn't achieve anything, वो prove them wrong, just prove them wrong, right? My college is troubling for attendance. I want to ask you that do students get detained just because their attendance is low? Yeah, I don't have idea about this. No idea at all. I've heard this problem a lot, but मुझे attendance कैसे काम करती है कॉलेज में, कैसे tackle करते हैं, no idea. None. अगर मैं खुद face किया होता I would have answered it. So Noman Khan again, he says that reason was whenever I started some issues came in way, like for COVID cases, I was only there for them to assist. Then after that mid sem comes, or end sem comes, and on sleepless depression into one. Okay, let me refer back to Naman's question. I remember I asked him. So he says that I'm in sixth semester, almost at end. I started DSA and Dev multiple times, but due to some issues, left it. Okay, now I got it. Okay. So he says that reason was whenever I started, some issues came in my way, like four COVID cases. Then after that, mid sem comes and end sem comes. Add on sleepless plus depression. Yeah, see, I was in a very similar situation, to be very honest, right? I mean, my journey started before COVID, right? So it wasn't like I had any COVID cases in my house, but again, I was going through sleepless nights, I was going through depression, and I was just thinking about life in general, ki kya karna hai, kya nahi karna. And even for me it happened. I mean, I used to start a lot of things. I mean, initially, when I completed my high school, I started studying about affiliate marketing and how, there are different marketing strategies and how funnels are created in marketing and all those things. I got pretty excited about it. I started learning it, but then after some time I left it. Then in, I guess, June, July, I started with HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. I wouldn't deny that was the first time I started coding. एक दो दिन किया. I mean, I just did it for a couple of days. एक दो दिन में मैंने एक basic सा static website. I created a basic static website in a couple of days, and I left it. I left the course. Udemy पे I was doing a course on Udemy, and then in September 2017 I started learning C++. And after started learning C++, I covered a few basic concepts in C++. Functions क्या होते हैं, what are functions, what are variables, what is this, what is that. Now, I studied a little bit of this. Loops क्या होते हैं, what are loops, what are conditionals. Started studying a little bit about this, and after a couple of days I left it. So it's not like it only happens with you. It happened with me as well, and it happened big time with me. But when I had a focus in front of me now, when I had this focus, when in November 2017, when I actually started my journey, after which I never paused my learning, and I like went with it full on, deep dived into it, was like spending 12 to 14 hours each and every day, and that's minimum that I'm talking about. Right, when I deep dived into it, I just had a simple objective in front of me. 1 year later, I want to like kill it. Right, 1 year later, I want to make sure that I prove each and every like person wrong on this planet. Whoever has doubted me, whoever has questioned my mom that she like didn't raise me well, or she is not doing a good job raising us well, that we couldn't get a high like make a good career out of ourselves, and she is not like taking a stand that I'm dropping out of college, and she's just sitting there watching. I had the simple objective: I'm going to prove each and every one of them wrong. Like one simple objective, and I never looked back. I mean, once I started doing it, like eventually people stopped talking about it, right? So I mean, you need to have a very strong determination. You need to have a very strong goal for yourself, and your mindset should be that if you say that you have very less time left and you want to do something, then your mindset should always be that you know let's give it a try. I mean, what's there to lose, right? I mean, 6 months में, I mean, इतना टाइम हो गया है. You spent already so much time, and सिर्फ 6 महीने बचे हैं ग्रेजुएशन होने में, ये जो भी है ना. You already spent so much time. इतने टाइम में कुछ नहीं हुआ, है ना. तो पता है ना कुछ नहीं हो रहा, है ना. और 6 महीने कुछ नहीं हुआ, है ना. तो वो तो चल ही रहा है अभी भी. आई मीन, इट्स ऑलरेडी हैपनिंग ना. तो इससे इस मतलब बुरा हो क्या जाएगा यहाँ पे, इससे खराब और क्या हो सकता है. ट्राई करके देख लेते हैं. माइंडसेट ऐसा रखो कि द नेक्स्ट 6 मंथ्स दैट आई एम गोइंग टू इन्वेस्ट इन माई लाइफ, आई एम जस्ट गिविंग इट माई 100%, एंड आई एम नॉट गोइंग डाउन विदाउट अ फाइट. मेरे पास 6 महीने हैं, मैं 6 महीने अपनी जान लगा दूंगा. Yeah, I'm not going down without a fight. I'm not giving up without a fight. क्योंकि 6 महीने बाद अगर कुछ नहीं भी होता है ना, सी आई मीन there's a very famous quote from Elon Musk that if your goals are very high, if your goals are very high, and even if you fail, you will fail better than others. ठीक है, किसी का गोल ही है कि मुझे 4 साल, मतलब किसी का गोल है लेट्स से कि आई वांट टू स्कोर अ जॉब ऑफ 50,000 रुपीज, एंड इफ दे फेल, है ना, यार वही स्कूल वाली बात है। आई मीन व्हेन वी यूज्ड टू बी इन स्कूल, स्कूल में क्या कहते थे कि 70 मार्क्स के लिए पढ़ के जा रहा है तो 50 आएंगे। सबके घर में होता है ये, ऐसा नहीं है कि तुम्हारे घर में होता है मेरे घर में, सबके घर में होता है ये। सब पेरेंट्स बोलते हैं, सेम चीज़ बोलते हैं, 70 मार्क्स के लिए पढ़ के जा रहे हो 50 आएंगे, 100 के लिए पढ़ के जाओ तब जाके 80 आएंगे। समझ रहे हो? तो वो गोल बड़ा रखो, बोलो कि मुझे 6 महीने में करना है, फेल भी होगे बाकियों से बेटर पोजीशन पे फेल होगे ना। समझ रहे हो? तो एम वैसा रखो, गोल वैसा रखो, और फिर ट्राई मारो, फुल पूरी जान लगा दो। होगा, क्यों नहीं होगा? तो कुछ मत सोचो बीच में। बाकी सब ये सब फालतू के डर होते हैं कि कॉलेज, मतलब कॉलेज में मार्क्स अच्छे नहीं आ रहे, या डिग्री नहीं है मेरे पास, क्या होगा क्या नहीं होगा। अरे कितने लोग हैं यार बिना डिग्री के कितना कुछ करके बैठे हैं। तो होने को सब हो जाता है, एफर्ट लगता है बस उस लेवल का। हे अपूर्व, एज आई एम एन एंड्रॉयड डेवलपर सो आई एम इन डिलेमा, हाउ कैन आंसर्ड इट ऑलरेडी। युवराज सिंह का क्वेश्चन बार बार आ जा रहा है। पूर्व आफ्टर द कंप्लीशन, आई थिंक ये बहुत पुरानी चैट है, कितने क्वेश्चन है। पूर्व आफ्टर द completion of your boot camp we can get job remotely in India or foreign remote. Yeah, you can get it after the completion of my boot camp if you perform extraordinarily, if you invest all that hard work and everything. Like foreign में job लगेगा, remote jobs you will easily be able to get foreign jobs. Piyush Sagi, bro, can we get hired at age of 19 as college dropout for front-end developer? Yes, I know a lot of people hired at 19. भाई मैंने 16-17 पे हायर होते हुए देखा है बंदों को। 19 तो बहुत ज़्यादा है। मैं खुद 19 पे हायर हो रहा था। मोहम्मद says answered it already. Omkar says please approve highlights on Android. Please Apoorv, yeah मेरा I like a lot of people misspell my name, and it's kind of getting funny for me now. I mean, once I was so there was this once time when I went into Domino's Bangalore, in Bangalore, and I went into Domino's, and there were like a group of people with me, right? So there were a lot of my colleagues, and I said that the street is on me and Domino's, right? So I took them to Domino's. They were like my team. I was a part of like a startup back then, and I was leading their tech team, right? So I had a group of 6-7 folks working like in my team, and we started achieving a lot of our targets, in terms of tech, and we actually improved the code a lot. So like we were building some product, and while building that product, I we you know we had this objective that one in 1 week we need to revamp this entire website, right? This entire like application, right? So 1 week mein we achieved it, and I took them to Domino's, and Domino's mein I mean we ordered a lot of cheese burst pizzas and all those things, and I think the bill for that was around 7,500, something like that. So when I paid for that, when I gave my card कि हाँ ठीक है इससे payment कर लो, the Domino's guys, they usually ask for your name. What is your name? So I said my name is Apoorv, and what I do is I usually spell my name as well. कि Apoorv, Apoorv, right? I spell my name. I told that my name is Apoorv, and they, you know, they typed it in. Then when they give me the bill, I look at the bill, and I see my name written as A space poor, Apoor. And I was like, what the hell, man? I mean, I'm spelling the name, and you're doing this with me when I'm paying a bill of like seven, 8,000 rupees for the entire group. You're spelling my name as Apoor instead of Apoorv. So I get that a lot. And highlights on Android, again, the same thing. I mean, not going to. I've already answered that. Highlights on Android, it's similar thing. I mean, if the process is majority of the process is similar to building front end, and when you're building the backend functionality, majority of the process is similar to building backend, and yeah, I mean it's pretty much similar in my opinion. But just the testing part of the Android application is different because you're creating an Android or any mobile application for different screen sizes. It should work for uh, you know Android devices as well as iOS devices, or maybe these devices have different screen sizes. It should work on tablets as well. So for that, I mean, there are a lot of testing strategies, even for performance, like how the application is performing in different devices, different models of different companies. सैमसंग के इस मॉडल पे कैसा चल रहा है, उस मॉडल पे कैसा चल रहा है, तो वो टेस्टिंग थोड़ा सा अलग होता है, काफ़ी अलग होता है, स्नैपशॉट टेस्टिंग वगैरह होता है काफ़ी. Can I keep up with your course and assignments part time while doing job? Yes, definitely. I mean, I'm not going to rush things, and all of those things are going to be there, right? It's not like it's rushing forward. Ha, thoda. I mean, the competitions that are going to be there, the competitions are going to be timed, right? You'll have very limited time to submit your solutions for those competitions, so you might miss out on the competitions, but yeah, I mean, you can rest of the things you can do at your own pace. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Piyush Tyagi says, bro, can we get hired at the same question, same question, same question, same question, same question. What are your views on Alma Better Masai School? No comments. Not never heard of that school. Sorry. Aditya, I've already answered that. Why you don't have a portfolio? Like, are you asking me why I don't have a portfolio? I have a very huge portfolio. Like, I mean, I've worked on applications where I've myself written code of up to 12, 15 lakhs line of code. So you cannot tell me that I don't have a portfolio. So I was working in a fintech startup, and in that fintech startup, the entire code base was around 50 lakhs line of code, so 5 million lines of code, and out of that, I personally contributed 1.2 million lines of code. So you cannot tell me that I don't have a portfolio. I've worked on a lot bigger applications, like on a lot larger scale. What are your thoughts on Masai School and Newton School? Masai School and Newton School, yeah, no thoughts. I mean, see, what I feel is that there are a lot of schools who tell you that do our course, and then once you get a job, uh, sir, can we see your portfolio projects? I'll show you someday, right? So what are your thoughts on Masai School and Newton School? So there are a lot of schools and basically startups, I would say, that are offering you some boot camp, and they say that after completing those boot camps, you are going to get a job from this to this, and we are going to then you can pay us back, like you pay some amount to us. And for Pestro as well, I mean, if you're asking, then same goes for any other people who are doing that. Now I'll tell you what happens in this, right? And these are my personal opinions. So the first thing is that they say that the job is guaranteed, right? That's never the case, right? The job is never guaranteed. The usual success rate in these platforms is usually about 10 to 20% per batch, right? And even like when you don't get a job, if you invest, let's say, 6 months, 8 months, and if you don't get a job after doing that boot camp, it is easier for them to say, because they would then tell you that we are not taking any money from you, right? And you still got to learn, so what's the loss for you, right? It's easy for them to say. and you like invested your 6 to 8 months. I'm not saying that you didn't get to learn anything, but the jobs are not guaranteed, first of all. Now secondly, if the jobs are guaranteed as well, then it kind of becomes a liability for you. I mean, you have to pay like 20% of your salary till up till a cap amount for, let's say, 2 years or something. So for the next 2 years of your life, you are going to be bounded by that liability that you have in your life, right? Let's say that you get a CTC of 10 LPA. Just an example, right? Let's say that you go through any of these, uh, you know, what do I say? Some startups that offer this kind of thing, and you get a package of up to 10 LPA. Then, if your CTC is 10 LPA, you are going to have some tax deductions, right? You're going to have some tax deductions. Your CTC is 10 LPA, and 10 LPA CTC makes it what? Around around 80,000 of salary per month, right? 80,000 salary per month is 10 lakhs LPA CTC, right? So 80,000, out of this 80,000 that you have, there's going to be a rough deduction of about 10,000, right? And why 10,000? Because there are some tax slabs, right? So you're going to, pay some TDS, let's say, or some tax, maybe 10% or something. In this category, 10% I think is it's 10%, might be 20, but I'm not sure. So you're going to pay some tax on that, and along with this tax, there are also different hidden deductions that are there in companies, right? Hidden deductions like, if let's say the office is based out on Bangalore, or if it is based out in Mumbai, then there is some deduction that happens from the company just because you are an employee of that state, right? So that is going to be there. And there are going to be some deductions on, let's say, some general PF funds or something that you have invested in, or opted in while doing for the company. So let's say that your in hand after a 10 LPA package is coming out to be 70,000, right? And now out of this 70,000, the company says that they are going to charge you 20%. So the 20% they are charging you for per month, they are not going to charge you from the 70,000 that you are left with in CTC. They are going to, in hand, they are going to charge you from the CTC that you had. So if your initial CTC was, let's say, 80,000 per month, right, they are going to charge you 16,000 rupees for that. So deduct that 60,000 again from 70,000. What are you left with? 54,000. Now, no matter whatever your salary is, and your salary was supposed to be 80,000, you were supposed to be getting 70,000 in hand, but what you're getting after all these deductions is close to 50,000 per month. And this 50,000 is going to be there for the rest of your 2 years. Because if, let's say, you choose to, you know, eh, make a switch in your career, if let's say you choose to make a switch in your career, maybe you don't like the work culture of the company they got you placed in, because work culture is very important. So if, let's say, you don't like the work culture of the company that they got you placed in, or you choose to, you know, uh, look for some other job, they are not going to help you in getting another job, but they are going to still ask you for that 20%, because initially they got you an offer of 80,000, out of which 16,000 is their monthly cut. And even if you lose the job, you still have to pay 16,000 to them, right? So it's a hidden liability that is there. Now, I am not sure if this happens with all the startups that are out there. You can definitely write an email to them, to their support team, but I mean, most of the times it is not helpful, because I mean, their support team are also trying to sell it to you, so they are not going to, you know, explain these details to you, but this is what happens, right? So beware of these things. And yeah, so yes, Sarthak, I will do that. How to get into freelancing roadmap, will do that. Where to find internships for DSA and web development? Try to go for networking, or try to look for internships. There are different org pages, or there are, I posted a thread on Twitter. I retweeted a thread on Twitter that you know contained a lot of platforms where you can look for remote jobs. So these platforms don't only just offer remote jobs, they also offer internships as well. So you can go check those out for web development. Do remote jobs require language knowledge? Most of them don't. Right. Most of the, if it is required, then it will be mentioned in the job description. Don't apply to them. It is required in some places, but most of the times English is the universal language. You should be very good with English communication skills, and they won't require any other. Remote jobs don't require any other language like German, French, Japanese, etc. So Anshuman asked that what will you advise or suggest to a student who is going to pass out 12th grade and had made up his mind not to enroll in college and is interested in DevOps and web development and want to get a job? My boot camp. See, I mean the kind of situation, the kind of question that you've asked, Anshuman. This question is like exactly my situation, and my entire bootcamp is focused on this only. That if someone is coming from this situation, how they can get into web development and DevOps and how they can get a job. Now, there's obviously more to DevOps that than what I am going to cover, because the DevOps I'm going to cover is going to revolve mostly around Docker as well as AWS. But there are a lot of other tools as well that Sayyam and Kunal are working on, so you can definitely follow them if you want to get stronger with DevOps. But for my bootcamp personally, I'm going to you know like help you explore some tools for CI/CD. I'm going to like give you an AWS masterclass. What are the different tools that are used in AWS and why I use them, what is their purpose, and how to actually implement them in an application. That is going to be there. And it is also going to focus on Docker a lot, because we are going to cover microservice architecture, for which I'm going to use Docker and YAML files and all that, right? So that is going to be there. So I guess that answered it. Mukund says that I am a distance learning BCA student. The only disadvantage I feel is isolation. I know this is the price I am paying for extra time, but isn't there anything I can do about it? Mukund, be a part of a community. I mean, when I started out, I was also like very isolated initially. I didn't have many people to talk to. But once I started finding people who I shared my interests with, and once I started engaging with people. So, I mean, my personal remedy for isolation was that I used to travel a lot. I used to do I used to do cheap traveling. It's not like I was going very expensive while I was traveling, but yeah, I mean I used to travel a lot, and that kind of helped me in putting my isolation aside. But if you feel isolated, and try to be a part of some of the communities with like-minded people who share the same interest that you do, and I mean try to interact with them, maybe have some general calls with them. You could set up a smaller group for yourself with some like-minded people, where once in a week you just get on a Zoom call or a Meet call and just discuss what you learned in that week. That is a very good practice. It would help you with your isolation. Just try to find like-minded people, right? uh, what CS concepts are asking in a web dev interview, where there are a lot of questions. I mean, can you tell what is a cross origin error course, or can you tell how authorization works, or can you define how sessions work and how do they help it? Or they might give you situations, right? They might give you situations like if let's say you're implementing this functionality, and you let's say I'll give you a situation, right? So let's say that you made a user log into your application, and now if they'll all obviously close their browser, right? They will close their browser, they will shut down the system, but you don't want the user to log in each and every time, right? You want your application to build it in a way that it doesn't like ask the user to logs in each and every time. So whenever they open the URL of the website, they should directly come into the website, and they don't have to log in again, right? So and it's not time bound, right? It's not like a user did not open the application for 2 weeks, so then you have to log in, get them logged in. It could be that the user opens a website after 2 weeks or 1 month as well, but still they don't have to log back in. So how are you going to handle that? Right. So these kinds of situational questions, they would try to put you in. They would ask you basic questions like what is cap theorem and what is the dry principle. They might ask you some question about databases like SQL databases or things like that. They are going to ask you about different architectures. What is MVC architecture? Things like that. There are a lot of questions they can ask. We are going to cover those questions in the bootcamp. I'm going to tell you what types of questions can be asked when you're giving interviews. Right. So it's as I said, this bootcamp is going to contain each and everything, right? My objective is to make you job ready, right? So you don't have to worry about that. But since you asked it in this live, then I answered it, right? Getting job in FAANG as UI UX designer is easier as compared to getting job as a developer, because I think this is an answer. Where to find internships for DSA and web development? Already answered it. For full stack internship, what kind of projects would you recommend to build and to make a great, um, uh, like make resume look great? So this is a very good question. Try to see what kind of full stack applications are there. So there are some functionalities that are unique to some full stack applications, right? If let's say you go on a news page, right, you go on a news page, then it updates automatically, right? Or just look at the live chat of this YouTube, right? The live chat of this YouTube, as soon as you're typing something, I'm getting what you're typing, right? So try to build these kinds of functionalities, right? Try to build websites that contain these kinds of functionalities. And if you're, let's say, going for a news application, try to build an application where, let's say, you like push some news into uh, the database, and it gets like the web application takes it up from the database on the go and starts displaying it, right? That's how the news applications work. Like 8:45 पे क्या हुआ, 8:50 पे क्या हुआ, 8:55 पे क्या हुआ, it keeps updating, right? You don't have to refresh the page. So those type of functionalities, try to build them. And just try to explore different websites and try to clone them. Those are good projects. And how you should clone a project or a website, again, the video that is coming out in this week in Friday, make sure to watch that video. It is going to give you a great insight on how you can you know um, have a great learning while watching YouTube tutorials. Even if you're learning from a tutorial, then how you can maximize your learning and actually crack interviews based on that. Watch that video, it will help you out. And it's a smaller video this time, just 11 or 12 minutes, because it was just one point I wanted to highlight and explain it in a little bit detail. Where to find internships? Yeah, it's the same thing. Okay, so there's one question, Bhaiya. I actually have a doubt. While I am trying to implement DSA with Java, I understand a lot of concepts, but in Python there is a lot of abstraction. So this is a very good question. Now see, I mean, the thing is that if let's say someone is it kind of depends on the job as well. So in DSA, what matters more is the problem solving skills. But if you're trying to learn a language, right, then it's not always that you should learn the language through DSA, right? There are other ways to learn it as well. And over the time, knowledge keeps coming up. I understand that Python has a lot of abstraction when it comes to the implementation of things. You don't like Python already handles all the memory management for you, but there's still a lot to learn, right? For example, I mean, if you look at Python, for example, then Python creates integer objects in the backend, like in the memory, when we talk about Python, right? But Python by default has numbers from -5 to 256. I think from -5 to 256 it has this like long list of numbers that comes predefined. integers, right? And if you define any integer, let's say I define any integer a is equal to something, and this something is, from -5 to 256, right? And then I say b is equal to the same number, right? B is equal to, if let's say I said a is equal to 10, and then I'm saying b is equal to 10, and then if I compare a is b, right? If I use the is operator there and I say that a is b, it is going to give me true. Why? Because behind the scenes, since I mean Python already contains this Python objects, list of Python objects from -5 to 256, then whenever you assign any variable, it is simply going to map to this like this object in this list, right? And that's why it is going to give you the same. But if let's say you choose a number before like less than -5 or greater than 256, if let's say that you say that a is equal to 500 and b is equal to 500, and then you do a is b, it is going to give you false, right? So there's also a lot of things to learn in Python as well. And obviously you can deep dive into Python, you can learn about Python internals, what how it works behind the scenes and things like that. But when you're solving DSA, it's not it's not something to worry about, that you are deep diving into, because Java obviously is a low level language, right? It's lower than Python. Python is a high level language, right? So since Java is a works on a more lower level, then obviously it exposes you to more stuff. While you understand better, it's also a little bit overwhelming for beginners, right? Python on the other hand, it doesn't exposes much to you, and once you start getting a grasp of it, it kind of makes sense like over the time. And then you can obviously, after a certain amount of time, right, if let's say you start learning Python, and then after some time when you feel that you're good with Python, you go into Java or you go into C++, and then you explore a lot of different things that works behind the scenes, you that works at an abstract level in Python but are exposed in Java or C++. So your question should be that how does these things are handled in Python at an abstract level, and then you start learning more about Python, right? So I mean, it's a part of learning journey. It's not like the way you learn Java. It's the same way you learn to Python. Why Python is beginner friendly is that its syntax is like readable, human readable. Like it's very easy to read the code in Python. So yeah, I mean, but it's nothing to worry about. If you think that Python is more of an abstract level, start with Python. Later on, when you go to some other language and you start understanding, different uh, computer science philosophies and how a language, exposes you to different things that are not exposed in Python. When you go through all of these things, come back to Python and try to explore how it works behind the scenes, right? That's a general learning curve that all of us have. What are your reviews about web dev courses like Kodam and Neo-G Camp courses? Uh, I looked at, I honestly, like a couple of days ago, I came to know about Kodam. I didn't know what it was. So I went through it. I went through the course. I don't think, I mean, if I would have been in someone's place, I wouldn't have paid for it, right? The reason being is that, they, a lot of things are very less exposed in the industry, right? I mean, when we talk about web development in general, then there are certain requirements in the industry. There are a lot of jobs that are created for stack per se, Mongo and Express and React and Node. But and whoever tries to build a full stack course, they try to build it along these lines, right? But I mean, as I've already explained, like earlier in this live session, I don't think that that is the right approach to learn. Right, and if I would have, like, after having all the knowledge that I already have, if I would have been like doing all those courses, at least I wouldn't have paid for them. If it is for free, I would have given it a try, but definitely not paid for it, because I mean the structure of the concepts is good. I'm not denying that. The way like the concepts are structured, I went through the entire curriculum. The way the concepts are structured is good. It should be in that way only. I think a few of the things could have been tweaked in my experience. But I mean, if I pick the technologies in general, I am never aligned with technology. I mean, I never see Node.js as the first backend framework I would teach to anyone. But yeah, I mean, it is something that if you want to give a go to, then you can do that. Definitely do that. Okay, so Gaurav asked that, hey Apoorv, what do you think is going to be the biggest and most paying fields in computer science in 10 years? My college has specialization like AI/ML, blockchain, full stack, cybersecurity, etc. I think, Gaurav, all the fields that you have mentioned, all of them would be high paying. Cybersecurity is extremely high paying and altogether difficult as well. Right. AI/ML is the future. We all know it. Blockchain again is the future. The decentralized systems and all. If the technology is utilized right, it is going to be the future. And full stack development is never going to end. I mean, the full stack development is never going to die because. I mean, a lot of people say that web development can be automated. Like we can create AI/ML scripts that are going to automate web development. I understand that, but behind the scenes, they are going to just make decisions, right? Like what HTML needs to be used for what. But the HTML that is going to be there, or the components that are going to be there for the web development, for front end and for back end, who are going to code those components? Web developers, right? So all of these are going to be high paying field, and to be honest, I think tech is a little unpredictable. Like the things that you predict today, it's not like they're always true. Sometime from now, it's ever molding, and it is going to remain that way. So predictions cannot be done, but I think cyber security is never going to die. Blockchain is going to go mainstream soon. It's already pretty much mainstream, but even in terms of jobs that are there, a lot of companies have already started focusing on asking for developers with web3 experience and all of that stuff, and they're paying good salaries as well, because the developers who are practicing these technologies, web3 and all of the developers are less, because and the jobs are comparatively more, right? Good developers are less and jobs are comparatively more, so the salaries are by default high there. AI/ML is never going to die. It is like it has just it is just starting up. So, and full stack, I don't think it's going anywhere. So can I make a video on open source? I have some plans. I have some plans where I will make an open source contribution and record that, so you guys can see how I made an open source contribution if you're interested in that, because I have seen that a lot of you are afraid to take the first step in open source. Right. You're afraid of making your first contribution. You're very confused. Yeah, what should be my first contribution? And like the projects are so overwhelming. So how to go through these big code bases that are out there, and how to pick an issue that I can solve and how to solve it. Right. So I'll make a video on that. I have it in plan, but not in the near future. There's a lot of work in the bootcamp, so I'm not taking any of these things up. Puneet says that Apoorv, you usually say March 8, 2023. What is it actually? Yeah, so March 8 is like 8th March was the day when I started my YouTube channel this year. Now I had some plans to like share my complete story, because I mean a lot of people say that my story is really inspiring, and the like it's like actually inspiring them a lot, and it's actually motivating them a lot. But to be honest, I mean the story that I've shared so far, there's a podcast rolling around I did like 1 year ago with Rahul Rana. The channel's name is Geek Sauce, and yeah, there's a podcast running around. It was the earlier name of that channel was Keep It 100, where I like explained some parts of my story. But the story that I've shared so far, my story, like how things happened with me, and how I like conquered all the difficulties or things like that. That story is sort of untold right now, and what I've shared so far is just the tip of the iceberg, right? Like 90% of the story is still unheard, right? So I had it in plan that on 8th March 2023 I'll be sharing my entire journey, like no holding back. And also, I mean, I had a plan to start one more thing, start a new thing. So that I think I'm going to reveal then. But I think the timeline of 8th March 2023 is going to get stretched a little bit, because I initially had it in plan that I will complete the bootcamp by 8th March. But now when I look at the logistics of the things that I want to teach, and what detail I want to take you into while teaching those things, I don't think it is possible to be completed by February end. So it might stretch a little bit, might move to 13th May 2023, because 13th May is the time I'm starting my bootcamp. I'll try to complete it in 1 year, and I'll try to stick to the 13th May 2023 timeline for that. Right. Where to find internship for DSA? Answered this. Sarthak, many asked that how do I know that I have the required skills for the job? So, required skills for the job. So, just start giving interviews. I mean, what you can do is just start giving some interviews and see if you're able to clear them or not. You will have a better idea. The first thing is that start building a resume, right? Build a good resume and start rolling it out. If you're not getting any offers, then there's something wrong with your resume. You need to improve it, right? So work on improving your resume. Once you start getting some offers, start giving those interviews. If you're getting rejected in the first round itself, it means that your communication skills are lacking a little bit. So try to like work on your communication skills to for that. And then you'll get into the DSA round. Try to give those DSA rounds. If you're able to crack them, then good. If not, then practice more on DSA. Then move to the third round they're going to ask you some technical questions. So if they ask you some technical questions, you will know what kind of questions are being asked, and where's your knowledge lacking. So that is the only way. I mean, it's a feedback loop, right? You achieve some feedback, let's say from giving the interview, you work on it, and you again like look for feedback, right? So that's how it works. And I'll make a video on this entire, the feedback loop is known is a lean strategy. So when we do startups and when we do businesses, then there is like a framework known as the lean startup, right? And there's a book on it written by Eric Ries, and the name of the book is the lean startup. If you are someone who is into business, or if you're someone who is into startups, that book is like the bible of startups, right? If you go through that book, it is going to add so much value into your life and into the way you think in general, that it's going to like blow your mind away. I mean, it's one of my most favorite books I've ever read. Rohit Prasad asked that what mistakes you have done while in your learning phase that you think if you hadn't done, you would have been in a more better position than today. Well, I think that I might have made a lot of mistakes, but I mean, knowing that I've made those mistakes, I don't think that I would have changed any bit of it, because if I didn't make those mistakes in the beginning, then I wouldn't have been here. Because what I believe in is that you learn from your mistakes. So it's true I made some mistakes while learning, but if I didn't make them, I wouldn't be here right now. Because mistakes teach you a lot in the long run, and you should never be afraid to fail and never be afraid to make mistakes. It's like the first step of getting successful. When is your what? When is competitive programming important? I'm a mechanical engineering student. Do I need CP rankings? Well, you need CP rankings if you are going for a hardcore software engineering job, and by that what I mean is that you know If you're planning to go on the top level MNCs, and not just in India, but if you're planning to go in top level MNCs abroad like FAANG but in US or in other countries, then definitely you need CP for that. It's not easy to do that even for FAANG India. I mean, CP is kind of important, and CP is important if you're interested in problem solving, if you love DSA, and if you have a lot of time. If you are in first year, second year, then you can definitely get your hands into CP. A good CP ranking is going to help you, but it's not necessary. I mean, a lot of companies don't need it if you have the skills. But you should be a good problem solver. You should be able to complete, like, solve the DSA questions. But CP is not important. It depends on your interest, and it also depends on what kind of companies and the location of the companies that you're targeting. So if you're targeting FANG outside India, CP is the key, right? But if you are targeting FANG in India, CP can help, but it's not that crucial, right? But again, that doesn't mean that you shouldn't practice DSA. Practicing DSA is like different, CP is different. Competitive programming is something that you should do when you have a lot of time, and if you're in first year, second year, or if you enjoy doing it, right? Enjoying doing it is very important. Just don't just do it just for the sake of it. If you enjoy doing it, then do it. How did you get a job in your initial stage? I'll share that later. Priyanshu says that we are in the field of technology. Even if we are in our 50s, we have to still keep up with the technology. We can't just be polarized to one particular tech stack. I absolutely agree on that. And that's what jobs also require you to do. As I explained earlier, people get hired based on their mobile dev skills and get placed into web dev teams. It's a part of the tech tech field. Subhadeep Chatterjee says that I'm learning mean stack but want to learn React instead of Angular. Please guide me with which ones to choose. I say go with React. Angular is has started dying. I mean, React is more in demand. React will create better opportunities for you, and having knowledge of React also opens up doors for you to get into React Native. React Native is like a hybrid framework to build Android and iOS applications with the same code base, and the React philosophy remains same. I mean, doesn't matter if you do reactjs or React Native, they both follow the same principles and philosophies. So it's easier to switch later on. कितने बहुत सारे क्वेश्चंस है यार. We बार बार, I mean, you guys have posted the same question again and again. Now it's confusing for me. I'm just reading the questions and feeling like कि ये तो आंसर कर दिया. Noman Khan says that how long it will take to get completed by your bootcamp, 6 months or 1 year or what? Well, I would need more than 1 year to complete the bootcamp. Like, not more than 1 year. I would need 1 year at least to complete the bootcamp. Might stretch a little bit because right now, I mean, I have designed it roughly in my mind. Even the roadmap that I showed you, it was designed roughly. But the thing is that I mean, if some new things come up, or if let's say some new things come up in my mind that this is something that I should cover, I will include it, and I would not just stick to what I've you know said in the boot camp. Obviously, all those things are going to be there, but there's going to be more, so it might stretch a little bit. But yeah, that's the time I will need to teach you all of that. I will need to create all that content. Right now, after that, it completely depends on how much hours you're giving, what's your retention of the things you're learning, and how dedicated you are towards it, and how fast of a learner you are. Yeah, a lot of people have been asking when will Kunal continue his DSA bootcamp. भाई उससे पूछो ना. उसने मेरी पॉडकास्ट पे आंसर दिया तो था लाइव चैट में. तुम पॉडकास्ट ज्वाइन करोगे नहीं, तुम लाइव चैट देखोगे नहीं, तुम्हें कुछ नहीं करना और तुम्हें सवाल पूछने हैं बस. भाई देख लो थोड़ा. उसने आंसर दिया था. मेरे से पूछ के क्या मिलेगा? बताओ, मेरे से पूछ के क्या मिलेगा? क्या बोलूँ मैं कुणाल को? बताओ. मेरे को भी उतना ही पता है जितना तुमको पता है. मैं क्या बोलूँ कुणाल को? ऐसा ऐसा मैं क्या बोल दूंगा कुणाल को जिससे वो मेरी बात सुन लेगा, तुम्हारी नहीं सुनेगा? मैं सिर्फ एक सब्सक्राइबर हूँ उसका. तुम हजारों हो. उसको पता है बूट कैंप बनाना है, वो बनाएगा. मेरे से पूछ के कुछ नहीं होगा, मेरे से बोल के कुछ नहीं होगा. पता नहीं ये क्वेश्चन बंद क्यों नहीं होता है यार तुम लोगों का. Kajal Bhadoria asked that how shall I trust and choose which startup company to join even if it is a remote company? Well, uh, for starters, I mean, try to reach out to people on Twitter who are working on same community. Again, a lot of people ask that Twitter pe how do you network or how does it help. Yeah, na, to it can help you in these things as well. Try to search for people who are already working in those company, or try to reach out to them. Try to ask कि what is the culture like and how do they like working in it. सिर्फ एक बंदे के ओपिनियन पे मत जाओ. ट्राई टू लुक फॉर ओपिनियंस फ्रॉम अ लॉट ऑफ पीपल, राइट, एंड ट्राई टू look for that opinion and try to understand if you're aligned to the culture of that company or things like that. And people are very helpful in these cases. I mean, if you know go ask these people about questions of how the culture is like and things like that, they would be very helpful and supportive in answering you, right? So try to find your answers there, and that is the best way to identify if you. Yeah, if you want to join it or not. How many months will it be completed? Again, not sure. Same question. If you were to start again, which language would you start over and which framework would you learn for web dev? See, I mean, I designed my bootcamp in a sense that I included Python and Flask in it. My answer remains same. If I start over, I will start with Python. I will choose Flask. Since I'm like even after so many years of experience, if I am hell bent with that choice, then I mean there's a reason behind that, right? I mean, even with this much experience, I think that I made the right choice back in the days. It just happened coincidentally, but I wouldn't change a thing about it. I mean, I'm quite happy and content and satisfied with what I've achieved, and I feel that it was a good path that I took. I mean, in terms of learning. How did you contact HR recruiters and remote companies for interview after acquiring skills? How did you get first job? Your experience, if you can share overall. Well, it was through networking. I mean, since I was already working in the field of tech, I was doing a lot of freelancing. Then through freelancing, you start getting a lot of clients that might, uh, want to hire you full time for, let's say, some company that they work at, or the project was for, or you might build some friends that might help you out. So the recruiters that I you know uh, got initially, I got it through networking, and later on, you know as I started acquiring more people in my network, though these people, started referring me to the recruiters, and recruiters started reaching out to me. So that's why, networking is very important. Like, people should be aware of what you do and how good you are, like, while doing it. And then, I mean, things would start. So it's like a small journey. Things don't happen overnight. And if you like want to get a job directly, then obviously you can look at all the hiring portals that are there. As I again mentioned previously in the stream, that I created a Twitter, I shared a Twitter thread which contained all of a lot of platforms that offer remote jobs, so you can go check those out. But yeah, I mean, over the time, it's a slow process, but once you have built the foundation and you keep doing the good work, people will eventually start reaching out to you, right? It's like the YouTube algorithm, right? When you look at, I was like, yesterday I was reading about the YouTube algorithm. So it's like, if you keep posting on good content, YouTube will finally start recognizing you, right? And then it will start pushing your content. So it's the same thing. If you keep maintaining that consistency, if you keep doing that good work, people will start getting to know about you, and they will start reaching out to you, maybe through some of your friends maybe refer it to their friends, or some mutual connections refer you to some recruiters or things like that, right? So it's going to, it's a slow process, but it's very fruitful after certain amount of time. लाइव चैट लोड नहीं हो रही है बहुत मैसेजेस हो गए लगता है. ओके, आई थिंक आई हैव लॉस्ट अ लॉट ऑफ क्वेश्चंस इन द मिडिल, बिकॉज थोड़ा तुम लोग इतने मैसेज किए जा रहे हो सेम क्वेश्चन बार बार. कोई नहीं. सो हाउ टू बिल्ड अ गुड resume, I have answered it already previously. Try to keep it short, एक दो पेज मैक्स, एंड ट्राई टू शोकेस ऑल द स्किल्स दैट यू हैव एक्वायर्ड. ऐसा मत करो कि सिर्फ मन स्टैक दिखा दिया, बट मन स्टैक के अंदर क्या किया, राइट? इफ़ यू वर्कड ऑन डॉकर, डॉकर के अंदर क्या किया ना, क्या मतलब कैसे डिप्लॉय किया डॉकर से. इट कुड बी दैट यू बिल्ट अ डेटाबेस एंड यू, it could be that you had three microservices, right? You had a database, you had a backend application, and you had a front end application, and you deployed that entire thing through Docker, right? So try to mention all of these things. And also one good thing that you can do is you can play around numbers, because recruiters loves numbers, right? Play around numbers as in that I built this application in these many days, or I acquired this skill in these many days. So that is something that you can do. These numbers are very attractive for a lot of recruiters. And yeah, I mean, just mention all of your projects, try to give links to those projects, and try to write down all the things that you have done in those projects, because recruiters are always going to look for some keywords, and if they find a keyword in, let's say, one particular project, then they are going to just quickly skim through the entire description. If they like it, it's a pass, and you're going to get your interview scheduled. If not, it's a fail, and your resume is never going to come up again until you apply again. Do you use Reddit? No. What are your future plans, भैया? बूट कैंप ही है अभी, तो ऐसा कुछ प्लान किया नहीं है मैंने. बूट कैंप ही प्लानिंग में है, फेज़ 1, फेज़ 2, फेज़ 3, फेज़ 4. और उसके साथ आई ऑल्सो वांटेड टू स्टार्ट अ डीबगिंग विद अपूर्व, हैशटैग डीबगिंग विद अपूर्व वाला सीरीज, बट आई हैवंट रिसीव्ड एनी बग्स फॉर दैट. तो आई मीन बिना बग्स के मैं वो कर नहीं सकता हूँ. तो yeah, that is there. And yeah, I mean, my future plans is that I want to maintain transparency with you guys. I mean, whatever I'm doing, even for the community, like, let's say, um, soon I'm going to set up my Hashnode account, after which I'm going to start writing some blogs, and I'm going to start sending some newsletters. So I'll record a video on that. I mean, I'm doing it from scratch. It's something that is new for me, and since I'm going to implement that newsletter wala functionality, I'm going to go through the documentation of Hashnode, see how I can pick that functionality and implement into the website of virtual tech school that I'm building, right? So I'm going to create a video on that, so that you can also, if you want to do something similar, you can do that. Should I go work with SAP, ABAP, or switch to another company? Yeah, SAP, I'm not a big fan of SAP. I mean, it's completely up to your interest. If you are like passionate about tech, then this you should definitely switch. But if you like working on SAP, then why change? Sir, suggest some site for practice Python basic. पाइथन बेसिक प्रैक्टिस करने के लिए साइट मतलब व्हाट प्रैक्टिस डीएसए ये क्या डीएसए तो कहीं भी क्वेश्चंस उठाओ और कर लो प्रैक्टिस I mean pick questions from any of the platforms there's Cordility, there's LeetCode, there are so many platforms. Just pick any one of those platforms and start practicing Python. Do you recommend Udemy web dev courses? uh no, I don't. I haven't gone through any of the courses on Udemy, and I don't recommend any of the courses there. I mean, I have been hearing a name, Angela Yu karke, on Udemy, that she has a very good course and things like that. I went through it. I didn't like it personally. So yeah, I mean, I don't personally like Udemy. It's good to have a so my usual approach is that I go through Udemy, right? I go through the courses in Udemy whenever I want to learn a new technology. I go through Udemy and I just look at the topics, right? Once I know the topics, I just like learn it by myself. I never watch any Udemy course or anything. I refer to Udemy just for the topics, like knowing all the topics that are there, and I refer to two, three courses, see like what topics are missing from what course. It could be that there's some topic in one course that are not mentioned in the other, and there are some topics in the other course that are not mentioned in the first one. So I just compile a list of all the topics, and once I have the list of topics, I just like study it by myself. I don't watch Udemy. I don't like it. Will you create an interview? I'll create videos on how to crack interviews for junior positions only. I'll also share like what kind of questions are asked for interviews. Only on web dev. Don't like I'm not creating any question like interview question video on mobile dev or anything. But yeah, that's going to be there. Can you please share some ideas on portfolio projects? Already did. How click wrap is proved legally? Didn't understand the question. According to you, what is asynchronous programming language and what is synchronous? So, asynchronous, it's as simple as that, right? Asynchronous is like you create a function, right? And let's say this function takes some time to execute, right? So, I'll give you a very simple example. Let's say that I create a function, and that function, let's say I create a function, and the objective of that function is that it places a trade on some crypto platform, right? It places some trade on Binance, and once it places some trade on Binance, it has to wait for a certain amount of profit before selling the crypto. Let's say I create this one function, right? So now when this function is called, right, it's uncertain how much time this function is going to take. भाई हम लोग I mean I'm trying to sell a cryptocurrency here, right? It could be that if let's say I want to achieve a 1% profit out of it, it could be that that 1% is achieved in 5 minutes. It could be that it is achieved in one day, right? The time is very uncertain here, that how much time this function is going to keep running, right? Looking for the changes in the prices to sell the function, because it has already bought the cryptocurrency, now it has to sell it, right? So if let's say I code this in JavaScript, right, then what JavaScript will do is that and let's say that is function, before this function I had some code, after this function I have some code. So what JavaScript will do is, since it is asynchronous, it will execute the code above it, it will call this function, it will let this function execute, take its time, but it will start executing the code below it, right? It will not stop for this function to complete. But synchronous languages that are there, let's say I built the same thing in Python. It will execute the code above the function. It will call the function. It will wait for the function to complete its execution, and then it will like start executing the code below it. Right. So asynchronous जो होता है वो किसी के लिए वेट नहीं करता. किसी फंक्शन को 10 मिनट लग रहा है, 15 मिनट लग रहे हैं, लगने दो, उसको नहीं फर्क पड़ता, वो नीचे एग्जीक्यूट करना चालू कर देगा. सिंक्रोनस क्या होता है? सिंक्रोनस में जब तक ये फंक्शन का एग्जीक्यूशन कंप्लीट नहीं होगा तब तक आगे नहीं बढ़ेगा वो. ठीक है. तो now many a times what happens is that this function, let's say, returns something that we need later on in the code, है ना? So we have to wait for this function to complete. Up in JavaScript, just to like make this behavior happen the way we want it to, क्योंकि by default तो ऐसे behave करता नहीं है JavaScript. By default it will not wait for this function, and this function is going to return a value that we need later on in the code. So to make it work asynchronously in JavaScript, we need to use that promises and all those stuff, right? And that I think kind of gets a little bit tricky for a newbie, for a beginner, right? तो इसलिए comparatively पाइथन क्योंकि सिंक्रोनस है. अब पाइथन में इफ आई वांट टू लाइक simulate a asynchronous behavior, I can easily do that by creating multiple threads for a function or using some multiprocessing or things like that, right? So it is easier to understand in Python because it by default works in synchronous behavior. But to make it asynchronous, I can just use some threads or something, right? But जावास्क्रिप्ट को सिंक्रोनस बनाना न्यूबीज के लिए थोड़ा सा ट्रिकी होता है कंपेरेटिवली. जावास्क्रिप्ट को सिंक्रोनस बनाना, और ये सिंक्रोनस बिहेवियर बहुत ज़्यादा हेवीली मतलब चाहिए होता है, मतलब काफ़ी सारे यूज़ केसेस में. तो इसलिए आई नेवर रिकमेंड कि जावास्क्रिप्ट से बैकएंड स्टार्ट करो. फ्रंट एंड के लिए जावास्क्रिप्ट इज़ एक्सेप्शनल, लाइक देयर इज नो लैंग्वेज बेटर देन जावास्क्रिप्ट. इसीलिए जावास्क्रिप्ट पे इतने सारे फ्रेमवर्क्स भी है फ्रंट एंड के लिए. बैकएंड के लिए आई थिंक मतलब थोड़ा सा एक्सपीरियंस जब बैकएंड में आ जाए उसके बाद ओनली गेट इनटू दिस लाइक पैकी डिटेल्स ऑफ जावास्क्रिप्ट की सिंक्रोनसली काम करता है, हाउ टू मेक इट सिंक्रोनस एंड थिंग्स लाइक दैट. I'll explain this like in much more detail with my pen tablet on all those like examples in the bootcamp, but abhi ke liye itna hi. Importance of networking. Okay, so Kaushik Raj asked that, brother, if uh, suppose if you have made money on freelancing site and want to start transfer money back into bank account through PayPal, is there going to be any problem? If you already have a PayPal account, no, there's not going to be a problem. It's a very smooth process, but creating a PayPal account in the first place is a very hectic process. So that is going to be there. But in today's time, a lot of platforms offer you can transfer money directly into your bank account. So why use PayPal, a third party tool? Just transfer it directly into your bank account. It's a completely smooth process. Now these platforms might have different conversion rates. So for me what happens is that, let's say if the current conversion rate is 75 rupees per US dollar, right, it could be that the platform is offering me 72 rupees. So that is a little bit of pain कि 75 का 72 कर दिया, तो for each and every dollar I earned I am losing 3 rupees. But yeah, I mean ये बैंक भी करते हैं जनरली. I mean bank also don't give you the exact conversion rate, right? So that is there. Adbhuta says that I'm graduating this year, I'm good with English, and I'm from non-IT, so a bit new to programming but still learning. Where and how can I start working as I need financial assistance? Uh, Acquire some skills, start freelancing. Freelancing can give you like it can help you sustain your funds. I mean, at one point of time, uh, I think back in June 2018, that was the first month where I crossed 1 lakh, like the 1 lakh milestone in a single month while freelancing, right? So June 2018 was the month where within the first 10 days of that month, I did, a couple of projects that in total gave me about 50,000 bucks. From freelancing in the first 10 days, and right after that I got one project, just one single project, whose total worth was about 1 lakh 25,000 bucks, and I spent the rest of the 20 days just doing that project, right? So that was like June 2018 was the first month where I achieved the 1 lakh plus milestone for myself. So you can obviously like make a lot of money through freelancing, that's not a problem, but it's a little bit unstable. So if I'm talking about June, that in June I did a total freelancing of 1,75,000 bucks in June 2018. July was pretty dry. I mean, in the month of July, I only did 15,000 bucks worth of freelancing, right? So it's a pretty unstable thing to do. But yeah, I mean, some months go good, some months won't. So that is going to be there. But yeah, I mean, it's a good first step that is going to help you gain a lot of experience, and then you can start looking for more stable options, which could be jobs. We will use the cookies to save the user info to avoid the relogin. Yeah, you can use cookies or you can use sessions as well. I mean, you can create sessions at backend, not just saving the user info, because I mean cookies save it at the browser's end, right? But sessions sort of save it uh, at the application's end, like it again saves into the browser only. But yeah, I mean, cookies is a good option, but cookies sometimes gets deleted. I personally prefer sessions, but cookies can be used for a lot of other things. I mean, cookies can be used to collect data, like for offline applications. There are a lot of applications that offer you functionality where you can operate that application offline, right? Like without the help of internet, and then when the internet comes, it syncs, right? So in those when you're building some sort of those applications on web development, right? Initially, I mean, if you notice, then Google also launched an option where you can go through some websites in offline mode, right? So there cookies play a big role. I mean, that happens completely on cookies. But yeah, I mean, this particular problem can be solved with cookies, but can be also solved with sessions as well. I need to get started already. Will you target FAANG in future? No, not gonna target FAANG in future. Some tips for नॉन सी एस सी स्टूडेंट फैंक्स फैंग के लिए इतने यूट्यूब चैनल्स है यार, मतलब फैंग के लिए बहुत कंटेंट है. Some tips for non CSE students who want to make career in it. Watch my videos. Gaurav Upreti says that some tips for non CSE students who want to make a career in it. Watch my videos. I mean, all my videos are going to be something new for you. And since I am like someone who was sort of from a non IT field without a degree, I mean, my most of my advice is laser targeted for people who don't have a degree or who are in a later stage of their career, who want to get into tech from some different field. And I feel that if I can help these people who don't have a degree or who don't have a IT degree, but have some had some experience in some other field, if I can help these people, then the people who are already in tech, who are getting a degree, it's obvious for them, right, that I can help them as well. So my main focus is on these people. Ayush Panwar asked WebSockets. Yeah, I mean, you can use WebSockets. WebSockets not for the problem that I. WebSockets is used for yeah, it's more on the socket programming. I mean, if you want to build some chat functionality or even the video chat application, we might build something like Google Meet, like the entire Google Meet we might build in our bootcamp. It's going to excite a lot of you guys, and there are a lot of things when we built, websites like when you build something that is used for live streaming or video calling, you need to set up some stun servers and turn servers so that your data gets routed, you know to the receiver, because some people block, some providers, internet providers block it. So we'll see how we can set up these servers and turn servers. It might be something new for you, and we'll see how we actually implement all this socket programming into building something uh, that is used by Google Meet, and we are going to use PRJS for that. PRJS is like an excellent library for like knowing about what your peers are doing, listening to their actions and things like that. So there's a lot of stuff, right, that we are going to cover. So you don't have to worry about that. But yeah, it would be majorly built on WebSockets. And what are HTML and CSS templates? Will you teach the system low and high level design? Yes, I might. In my Linux masterclass, I will. Some tips on non-CSE students who want to make career in IT. Why our bootcamp is called web development? Why not full stack? Ah, because I didn't think about it. Right. But I feel the name of the bootcamp doesn't matter as long as the content is good. Right. So it's a secondary thing what I name the bootcamp and things like that. Remote role. How to decide salary according to your skill set? So this is asked by Akhil Sahu. So um, well, there's a way to do it, right? So I mean, the first thing that most of the people in my circle do, and this is something that even Kunal does, right? So what we do usually is that we have an hourly price for ourselves, like for 1 hours of work that we are doing, how much are we going to charge for that, right? So that could be anything. I mean, initially it's good to have a low price for yourself, something like 300 to 500 bucks when you are just starting out. I will like emphasize more on this in my freelancing videos, but initially it's a good price to have. But as you gain experience, obviously, since you have more and more experience over the time, you can increase that price, right? So I mean, for example, if let's say the hourly rate that I usually keep for myself is somewhere around 4 to 5 thousand bucks, right, per hour of work that I'm doing. And if let's say I look at a job and I know that the kind of work that this job is, I basically get an idea. Obviously, there are going to be ups and downs because the tech is something that is never what you expect. So it could be that you are, thinking that this functionality will get built in, let's say, 8 hours, but it might take 12. That's how tech always is, right? And it might be that you anticipated it to be built in 10 hours, but it might just take 6, right? So it happens a lot in tech, but you generally get an idea of how much hours it's going to take. Now let's say I'm applying for a job and I know that my weekly work in this job is going to be not more than 15 hours, right? And or let's say if I'm doing a freelancing project. So there are a lot of contractual based projects who pay you in hourly, though I personally prefer them because it pays me, it pays me the amount that I'm working for, right? So that is there. But and by that I mean that if let's say I'm working for 5 hours in a day, then it is going to pay me for that entire 5 hours, right? So and if let's say my hourly rate is about 4,000 bucks for that particular project, because the employer negotiated with me a little bit or things like that, and I work for 5 hours in a day, I know that I can expect 20,000 bucks for that day, right? So we have that hourly rate for ourselves, and we anticipate how much work we are going to you know be like we would be doing for this, keeping aside the meetings and all that is going to happen, just the work that we are going to put in, right? And if let's say that work amount for about 20 hours, per week, and we know that there are 4 weeks in a month. So I mean, if you do the math, then like 5,000 bucks per hour, 20 hours a week makes it 1 lakh, right, per week, right? And multiplied by 4, it becomes roughly about 4 lakhs per month, right? And then the employer might negotiate with you around that, right? So you could settle to somewhere around 3.5, 3.6 lakhs per month, or you could settle to 3 lakhs per month. Now this obviously I'm talking high figures right now, but when you're starting out, you should have a price of about 500, 300 to 500, and strive to, and obviously it does not apply to all the beginners. If you are an exceptional beginner with a lot of skills and you know that this price is not justified for me, keep it accordingly, right? For any average person out there, I think a price of 300 to 500 is good enough. If someone is very exceptional, then I think a price of 1,000, 1,500 bucks is ideal. I mean, 700 to 1,500 bucks is ideal for anyone, even who is exceptional, but at the beginning stage of their career. So even if you take the price of 1,000 bucks, right, and you know that since you are in the beginning stage of your career, no matter how exceptional you are, your price is 1,000, but you know that you're gonna take 30 hours per week for the same job that a senior dev is taking maybe 20 or 15, right? So 30 hours is something that you're gonna take, and you know that putting it all together, it comes out to about 18 lpa per annum, which roughly amounts to 1.5 lakhs per month. Ask for that, right? That should be your price when asking for salary, and then negotiate from there. I mean, I usually do this, and I know a lot of people do this. So, yeah. And also, you should be content about whatever salary you're getting. Never settle for less. Never settle for something that you're not, satisfied with. Always settle for something that is going to satisfy you, because only then are you going to grow, and only then are you going to provide the work that the employer is looking for from you. Hey, for DevOps, should I choose Google Cloud or AWS? It's your preference. Rough deadline for each phase. Can't comment on that. Some phases are bigger than others, and I can't comment on that. I mean, if I start putting a time on myself that I need to complete it in this much time or this much thing, it's going to build a lot of pressure on me. I'm not going to get into that situation. So I'm going to like go with my pace, not going to rush anything, because quality content takes time. पुलकित सिंह says that भैया वेब डेव में रिमोट अपॉर्चुनिटीज फ्रेशर्स को मिलती है क्या, बिकॉज मैंने जितने भी देखे हैं उनमें एक्सपीरियंस चाहिए. I think Kunal and I, both of us, answered it in the podcast as well, in the chat of the podcast, and in my video where I created the companies are desperate to hire these engineers. In the last section of it, I mentioned that why they look for experience and how you can get those jobs that are looking for experience even as a fresher. So you can check that out. I think I again missed a lot of questions in the middle. Pranjal Singh asked that will you make a Discord server for this bootcamp? There already is. I already have a Discord server. It has been mentioned in all of the descriptions of all the videos I have posted up until now. Yeah, I'm not scrolling up for more questions. If you have any questions, just ask them now. I think I missed a lot of questions in the middle. Some tips for freelancing, Dheeraj. Uh, I created a YouTube thread series on that. You can check that out. That YouTube thread series is posted in my Discord server. It is like posted in the resources channel in the Discord server. Do make sure to check that out. It is going to like give you a lot of clarity on the it's like a lot of tips on freelancing for all the things like how to get started as, as a fresher, and how to score your first job, and how to decide the quotation for your project, and how to retain clients. So there were four different threads and I summed it up. So I mean, you can go check out that thread for tips. Is HTML, CSS, and JS enough for freelancing? Yes, yes, it's more than enough. Most of the projects get posted there. Abhishek asked that I bought the full stack development course from Udemy from U. Is it good enough to land job of 50,000 rupees per month? Yeah, I mean 50,000 is yeah, I think you can get that job. Again, it will depend on the portfolio that you're building. And Abhishek, just make sure to watch my this video, the video that would be dropping on Friday this week. That is, that same thing applies on any of the Udemy course as well that you're going through, not just on any YouTube tutorials that you're watching. So watch that video and you'll get answer for that, like how you can get jobs while going through that course. What skills recruiters see apart from development skills? Well, you should be good at communication skills, and uh, you should be good at communication skills, and along with that, you should express some things like you're a good learner, you are curious about, you're passionate about what you're doing, and open source contribution adds to that. I mean, whenever you do any open source contributions, it tells the recruiter that you're passionate about what you're doing, and you really like what you're doing, and you're very eager to learn, right? And you're willing to contribute a lot. So those kinds of things recruiter look for. They also look for you know some leadership skills, if you have any. If let's say you built a community, or you were a part of a community, and you were active in that community, you can mention that in your resume that I've been doing these kind of leadership things in the past. And those are the things that they look for. And these are generally the soft skills that recruiters look for. Communication skills are the most important. No course is good enough, lol. Is it fine, buddy, to miss the questions? Okay, thanks. Bipin Biju asks, if I'm still a student acquiring skills and want to work through freelancing, will the employers trust me in hiring? Yeah, I mean, I wasn't even a student. The employers trusted me in hiring. When you trust yourself, they will do too. Yeah, Noman Khan said a very good thing. When you trust yourself, they will too. Right? So you need to trust yourself, and only then you would be able to reflect that. You should be confident about yourself. Only then you would be able to reflect that confidence to the recruiter, and only then would the recruiter be confident in hiring you and trusting you that whatever task they give you, you would be able to do it. Right? Well, because it depends on your pace. I mean, I cannot comment on how many hours you should step aside. At least try to get into the habit of putting at least 2 3 hours each and every day. But yeah, I mean, it depends from person to person. Now, some people, as I like specified earlier, some people might not even have those 2 3 hours, so it might be difficult for them. But yeah, I mean, it might be a little bit difficult if let's say you're having that kind of work schedule. But yeah, I mean, overall 2 3 hours I think is a good enough amount of time, a minimum amount of time that you should put. That's nice, bro. Brazilian Kami. So Golang is like very tightly typed language, and it's good that you're learning Golang directly. But just make sure not to get overwhelmed with it, and try to like pick up the concepts of Golang along with the concepts of backend development as well. Don't miss out the backend development, because since you're getting into that, you should be like well aware about the different types of APIs that are there, how to create them, what are different status codes, and things like that, and what are the different architectures, and how you uh, create maybe your views, and how you control the database, how your APIs interact with the database, things like that. Yeah, Sing Gaming. I created a Twitter thread on that, on how to get freelancing as a beginner, how to get your first freelancing project as a beginner. Uh, because I understand the competition is too much, and I created a thread very specifically on that, so you can go check that out on Twitter. Every important technical topics that you should focus on would be there in the bootcamp. I think the the session has gone 2 hours 50 minutes, and I have a lot of work to do in the bootcamp as well. Like I'm running behind schedule. I think I had to record a video, but it's fine. So I think with that said, we'll bring this session to an end, right? Uh, Dhanspi says that when you're making the course, please don't take time over mainstream topics like a CSS or JS video for hours. Please suggest resources on the respective topics like that. See, I am a self-taught developer, and you know, there are a lot of things. There are a lot of things that need more time than others, and there are a lot of things that people emphasize time on. So, to be very honest, the HTML and the CSS videos that are going to be there from me, like the entire HTML and the entire CSS, like in total would only be about 3 to 4 hours at max. I'm not going to create like 20, 20, 30, 30 hours of videos on that. JavaScript we are going to spend time on, but not in HTML CSS. HTML CSS is something that you can obviously uh, like refer to the web, and try to understand, because it's a markup language, right? So you don't need much of understanding in that, in building that. Once you know what tag does what, and you understand how you indent HTML and things like that, that's more than enough in learning HTML. You don't have to go in depth in HTML, right? Same applies for CSS, and even for CSS, I mean, when you're building something, you can obviously refer to so many resources on CodePen or things like that. So I'm not going to deep dive into CSS as such, but yeah, I mean, not going to say the same for JavaScript, because for JavaScript, if there were actually good resources out there, then people wouldn't be asking those questions on how to learn JavaScript. There is a very good series, Namaste JavaScript. I personally love that series, so you can go check that out. But yeah, I mean, I'll also be creating some content on JavaScript, and that content will not exactly be like how the Namaste JavaScript is, but it's going to be a little bit different. But we are going to talk more on the practical things in JavaScript, like how things work. Future of web dev, I've already answered. All these questions I think I've already answered. So it's time that we bring this live to an end. And I'm not sure if I can record the video today now because um, my throat is messed up now. It might be coming up in the mic as well. Like the voice I started with versus the voice I'm having right now. So yeah, I think that's it for this live video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I tried to answer as many questions as I can. That's why it stretched to 2 hours 53 minutes. This live stream would be uploaded on the channel. I mean, it would be available. I'll just end this stream and I'll just end the stream and just see like all the just set up the description of it and all those things and make it public. So if you any of you missed out, certain elements of the stream or things like that, then try Dark Exodus. I've already answered this question. So I mean you can refer back to the stream. Now the questions are getting repetitive. I've answered all of these questions today. So yeah, I mean I'll post it in public, right? It might be available in half an hour or something. So you can refer back to all the things and yeah, it's time to end it. And yeah, after this session, my situation has been like this currently. Tired, exhausted, and things like that. It's a filter on the live stream, and after the stream, I'm gonna go like this and just go and have some water to drink and eat some things. I wanted to try these like these filters in the stream, but yeah, I mean it kind of got serious. I was like planning to keep it lighthearted, but the questions were really good. I enjoyed answering them. Maybe when we achieve the next milestone of 5,000 subscribers, I'll do another live stream. And yeah, I think that's pretty much it. I'll see you guys in the next live stream, and yeah, just keep hustling, keep working hard, and do make sure to join the Discord server. If you have any questions on the go, I'm definitely going to answer them there in the Discord server as well. And I'll see you guys in the next stream or in the next video. Yeah, bye.